Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Race All-Star Esports Battle, a little event that we have thrown together after the cancellation of the Australian Grand Prix. Pretty much Thursday lunchtime, it was decided to try and hold this race, and 72 hours later, the lights will go off in the first heat. My name is Jack Nichols. Alongside me is Jolyon Palmer, the former Formula One driver. We're going to be talking you through the races that we've got coming up today. We've also got Rene Butler with us, who is a man pretty much behind this event and knows all things about esports and sim racing and rFactor 2. So we'll give you a little bit of a brief summary of what we're going to have. We're going to have 3 races, first of all, and the top 8 from each will go through to the grand final. Now, the first race that we're about to see in a few moments is going to be real-life racing drivers. We've got Max Verstappen, we've got Antonio Felix da Costa, we've got Simon Pagenaud, the Indy 500 winner, we've got Sebastian Montoya, and hopefully his father, Juan Pablo Montoya. The list goes on, and we'll go through that full list. The top 8 of those will go through to the final. Then the second race is going to be our sim racing all-stars. Those of you who've watched things like the F1 esports series will recognise a lot of those names. We're looking at Brendon, Leigh and Bono, Huis and those kind of guys. The top 8 of those will go through to the final. And then the third race is going to be those who have qualified on rFactor 2 over the last couple of days, since qualification opened yesterday, actually. So those are going to be, if you're new to sim racing, the kind of unknown names that you won't have heard of, but in this rFactor 2 world, are pretty big deals. So we are a couple of minutes away from qualifying getting underway. As I say, alongside me here in London, is Jolyon Palmer. Jolyon, you've done a bit of F1 esports and stuff like that, but this is the first time you've been, sitting in a bedroom commentating on rFactor, right?
I'm pumped. This is as good as it gets, I think. Straight back from the Australian Grand Prix and to a bedroom in London to talk about the replacement to the Australian Grand Prix, this race here. So a lot of big names as well. Raced against a few of these guys, and they're very good in real cars, but they seem to be pretty handy at sims as well.
So we've got 13 drivers about to do qualifying in a couple of moments' time. But let's bring in Rene Butler, who is with us. Rene, good afternoon. You must be excited for this. I mean, what an amazing field of drivers.
It definitely is. It's probably the strongest we ever had on rFactor 2. And since I'm doing sim racing commentary, I think first TV show in 2004, now seeing this grid with all the big names on it, it will be absolutely exciting.
Yeah, really looking forward to this. And how does qualifying work exactly? It's only a 5-minute session as the cars are now heading out onto the track.
Yeah, it's definitely a short window that they have. They need to go out. They're all in the private session, so we can see every driver, but they only see themselves. So there's no traffic, no waiting, no slipstreaming, just pure racing, trying to be the quickest to start up front of the grid.
Well, let's go with second place man at the moment, Max Verstappen. He is on his out lap now, and they get one shot at it. Their out lap, then their flying lap, and then that will decide the grid. So we won't really be able to keep across everybody's flying lap as it comes in. But I guess we'll go with the big man, Max Verstappen, who has got 100. Well, the Dutchman, only 22 still. And Rene, he's done a lot of sim racing actually, Verstappen. This is not new territory for him.
Definitely not. I mean, it's even hard to say if you count him as a real driver or as a sim racer in this one, because he has a lot of experience on his belt in terms of sim racing. He is really, really strong. He won events, and in this group, he can have a huge impact, that's for sure.
So, the drivers that we have out in this session are Felix Rosenqvist, the IndyCar driver, also a Formula E race winner, also a European Formula 3 champion. Max Verstappen, who, as we've said, needs no real introduction. Dani Juncadella, who's a very quick Formula 3 racer in the past, now races in DTM. Antonio Felix da Costa, a man who's won Macau twice. We've got Colton Herta, we've got Max Günther, we've got Neel Jani, Simon Pagenaud, the Indy 500 winner, Devlin Defrancesco, Charlie Eastwood, Porsche Carrera Cup champion in the UK, Sebastian Montoya, Jimmy Broadbent, who is a very famous sim racer, and Juan Pablo Montoya. But Jolyon, we're on board with Max Verstappen down into turn 1.
Yeah, here we go then. 3 minutes left on the clock already. We've used into 2 of them. And Verstappen's just starting his first flyer then. A lot of understeer as he turns into turn 2. Really long corner, left-hander. And then down the hill into turn 3. This track is very fast and flowing, really. It's a great sequence of corners. No longer on the F1 calendar. But really nice. And Verstappen now coming through to the end of Sector 1. And into this next left. into a right downhill, and then he'll be down towards the hairpin.
Setup-wise, all these cars are on a locked setup. That's the sort of fairest way to do these quick races, where they only found out this morning they were doing the Nürburgring Grand Prix track. So everybody's got the same setup. It's all about your driving as you now come up to this quick left-right at the Schumacher S.
Yeah, that's good as well, because it means we've got a exactly level playing field with this. We've got all of them out there on the same setup, and it's just 1 or 2 laps to try and get the job done here. And Verstappen, it looks like an alright, pretty tidy lap. This is a crucial corner. He's done that quite well, right up to the gravel on the long run now, up to the final chicane, and then just the final corner after that. This is the moment now. Got to pick a good braking point. Really late, about 75 metres. Nice bit of curb. Pretty much perfect there on both the left and the right apex. Let's see what he can do then.
So Neel Jani is quickest at the moment. He's at a 1 minute 30.0. Juncadella is 6/10 slower than him. Max Verstappen across the line. Oh, he goes quicker than Jani by some 7/10 of a second. Antonio Felix da Costa hasn't had a great lap. He slots into 4th place at the moment. Who else have we got out there? Let's go with 6th place at the moment, Felix Rosenqvist. Just coming to the final corner now. Rosenqvist did the Visa Vegas e-race a few years ago and was right up there with the sim racers, so I'm expecting him to jump in towards the front. Rosenqvist goes 2nd, just a 1/10 of a second behind Max Verstappen. Jani 3rd, Günther 4th, Juncadella 5th, da Costa 6th. Juan Pablo Montoya 4 seconds away from Max Verstappen at the moment. We've still got Colton Herta, Simon Pagenaud. Let's watch Pagenaud in 10th place as it stands. Actually, let's go, where's Jimmy Broadbent up to? Let's go Jimmy Broadbent, 12th at the moment, and we'll see what he can do. He's got a huge following on YouTube, Jimmy Broadbent. He's going to be in this first race. He commentates on sim racing. He's part of the Gran Turismo commentary team, and he's now coming down the hill towards the hairpin, and we'll see what Broadbent can do. But Verstappen and Rosenqvist just a 1/10 of a second apart at the top of the time.
Yeah, super tight, and they've got 1 more lap to try and differentiate that 1/10 gap for pole position. Jimmy Broadbent really wide. This is not looking like the tidiest of laps, to be honest. Up towards the left and the right. I think it's probably about turn 12, 13 area. The end of the second sector. Taking a lot of curb, and then this is the crucial run, but he's not using nearly as much road as Max Verstappen did on the exit. So it looks a little bit more of a scruffy lap, this one from Jimmy Broadbent.
So here comes Jimmy up into the final chicane, through the left and the right, and then out across the line. And I know we've got a lot of big Jimmy Broadbent fans here. All of you on the stream saying, no pressure, Jimmer. And here he comes across the line, and Broadbent goes 7th. That's not bad, 2.6 seconds away. It didn't look like a great lap, to be honest, in general. But he's got himself ahead of Charlie Eastwood, ahead of Montoya, ahead of Simon Pagenaud, Colton Herta, and Sebastian Montoya. I don't think of Colton Herta didn't complete a lap. So it's going to be Max Verstappen on pole position for this first race we've got coming up, which is going to be 8 laps. And that's going to be getting underway in just a moment. What were your thoughts on that, Rene?
It's interesting to see that Jimmy actually made to get that far up. I know he's a good driver. I mean, I picked him up for VLN this year, right? So he better be good. But see Max Verstappen once again on top, I think that's what everyone expected. Maximilian Günther, super strong, the young Formula E driver after his first wins this year in Formula E, right? So it seems like sim racing is also up his sleeves.
And actually, it was obviously just a 1-lap shootout for qualifying then. So that 1/10 gap between Verstappen and Rosenqvist stands. But they were the class act of that field. Here we go.
So the cars are on the grid, ready for the first race. It's going to be getting underway in 30 seconds' time. This is the race all-star esports battle. We got Max Verstappen on pole position. Felix Rosenqvist is going to be alongside him on the front row. And then the second row of the grid, so it's Verstappen in the purple car. It is Rosenqvist in the green car alongside him. Then we've got Neel Jani in third in the black and red car. Then the sort of, what colour would we call that? Sort of a light red is Maxi Günther in 4th place. Not Maxi. I always call him Maxi Günther, and then he gets cross at me for calling him Maxi. Here we go then. The first race in the race all-star esport battle is underway. Great start from Rosenqvist in the green car. He gets up ahead of Max Verstappen as they come down into the first corner, swinging it through the wall, and Rosenqvist goes in too deep and spins. Rosenqvist loops into turn 1 and then has a crash, I think, with Defrancesco at the back, and that is an absolute shocker of a start for Rosenqvist after getting away well. Verstappen still leads. Max Günther gives him a little bit of a nudge and goes out wide. So Verstappen still in first place, Jolyon.
Yeah, that's given Verstappen a nice bit of breathing space now. Günther's got to watch behind for Felix da Costa and Colton Herta, all going side by side into turn 6 there, the left-hander. Rosenqvist, oh no, oh no, he had the start perfectly, he had the inside line, and he just missed his braking point into turn 1 in way too deep, and then a bit of a panic moment after the spin, and he hit Devlin Defrancesco. He was in the lead, he was right on the pace of Verstappen, and now Verstappen looks like he's got a nice break at the front.
Antonio Felix da Costa in third place is ahead of the fourth place Carlton Herta. Jimmy Broadbent is going side by side in fifth place with Simon Pagenaud, and Broadbent gets through. So Broadbent, after not a great qualifying, has started to climb up the order a little bit more. There's action going back as Neel Jani has a collision with Juan Pablo Montoya. Not quite sure what happened to Jani at the start because he got away well, but in first place as they come towards the end of the first lap is Max Verstappen. Max Günther is in second position. Colton Herta is in third and is all sorts. It's 3 wide, in fact, for third position. It's Jimmy Broadbent is up into third place now. In the yellow car is Jimmer. He's going wheel to wheel with Antonio Felix da Costa. Da Costa has the inside line and holds on to third place for the moment, and Carlton Herta comes through to take both of them. So now Herta is up into third position.
Lovely stuff, great fight between Felix da Costa and Jimmy Broadbent, but they were watching each other, and Colton Herta did the old classic switchback, and they're still fighting each other in the background there. Oh, and there's a spin.
Oh, Jimmy Broadbent's round. He's going through the grass and Herta's facing the wrong way. Broadbent manages to get going again. He's now been overtaken by Juncadella and Felix Rosenqvist, who, remember, span at the start. Jimmy Broadbent now losing out to Dani Juncadella.
Yeah, I think Montoya was caught up in that as well, and Simon Pagenaud potentially. They've both fallen right down to the back. So that was Broadbent v Felix da Costa take 2, really, after the turn 1 incident. And they were side by side into turn 4 again, and one just touched the other, and they're both dropping down now. So Juncadella is the big gainer from that, and Rosenqvist is back up to 4th.
So Max Verstappen is leading the race. In second place is Max Günther. Third is Colton Herta. Fourth is Felix Rosenqvist. Fifth is Dani Juncadella. Sixth is Jimmy Broadbent. Seventh, Antonio Felix da Costa. And then 8th and 9th is quite a good fight, actually. Sebastian Montoya up in front of Neel Jani. Jani qualified third. He's trying to make his way back through the order. He looks to the inside coming into the chicane, but he's not quite close enough, Neel Jani. Verstappen's lead is 2.6 seconds up at the front.
Yeah, Jani started third. Günther started 4th. But Jani, I don't know what happened at the start because he was straight away falling back, even off the line. And Günther now looking pretty safe in second behind Verstappen. So those two look pretty set. Let's have a look at Jani then. On the back of Sebastian Montoya into turn 1, trying to make up. He's clearly got a bit more pace in the car. Did a much better qualifying lap at least anyway. But it's difficult to overtake in these corners here. Just twitching the rear a little bit coming through turn 2. Then turn 3 and 4. And then it opens up slightly more to turn 5. But there's barely a braking zone there to do an overtake.
That's the battle for 8th place. Let's go to the battle for 4th position, because Felix Rosenqvist is only a second ahead of Dani Juncadella at the moment. It's very close between those two. And in fact, Jimmy Broadbent in 6th place. This is going to be the fight, because Antonio Felix da Costa is right behind Jimmy Broadbent as they fight over 6th position. Let's bring in Rene Butler on this. Rene, how have you seen the race unfold so far?
I mean, we got good through turn 1. I expected a bit more crashing there. Super happy how the guys managed to do that. Obviously, Jimmy Broadbent, a great charge throughout the field. Unfortunately, that he might picked up some damage because we are low damage on these cars. So he and Felix da Costa might feel a bit of an impact on performance of the cars right now. But Max Verstappen, I mean, he lost the lead on turn 1 with da Costa overshooting it. But since then, he's just in full control of the race.
Let's go back to 8th position, because Sebastian Montoya, the son of Juan Pablo Montoya, is just in front of Neel Jani, and Jani's going to have an opportunity here. Both of these cars in the same livery, but Jani is the 36-year-old Swiss racer. The 2016 Le Mans winner is right behind Montoya as they come down towards turn 1. He's got DRS as well, so surely this is going to be it for Jani. Into the first corner, Montoya covers the inside line, and Jani doesn't go through that particular time. I thought that was a dead cert for an overtake there.
Yeah, Montoya got all twitchy coming out of the final corner as well, just struggling for traction. And that gave Jani the run, but he couldn't do it. Look how close he is, though, through 3. Now you've got to open it up through 4, and there's a little bit of a run. But again, barely a braking zone when you get down to turn 5. So close, though, down to this left-hander. The hairpin's coming up. That might be a chance now for Jani.
And this is the battle for the last qualifying position. The top 8 go through to the final. So at the moment, Sebastian Montoya would be through to the final and Neel Jani would be out. So that's how important it is that Jani can try and get through as they come through their hairpin right-hander and make their way back up the hill. We're at the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit here as they swing through the left and the right and then up towards the next left and the right that takes them out onto the back straight, which will be the next opportunity for Neel Jani to get past. It's pretty close between Rosenqvist and Juncadella in their battle over 4th place, but let's see what Jani can do. If he doesn't get it through this time, we'll move back towards the front of the order. But as I say, this is the battle over 8th place, and Montoya, who seems, as Jani takes the curbs there pretty heavily, but he can't get through.
Yeah, Montoya's not very quick through that chicane, and that always gives Jani the chance through this final corner. He's got to stay tight, and this time he's close again, so I think Montoya might have to defend down to turn 1, but I have to say the last lap he did it beautifully. Maybe this time he's even slightly further back, though.
Yeah, so let's go up to Jimmy Broadbent in 5th place, because he has got Antonio Felix da Costa right behind him now as they're coming through the first sector, and Jimmy is going to be under big pressure from da Costa before too long. Dario Franchitti is watching, the multiple Indy 500 winner. He's asked me to try and get the word cabbage in, but I just can't figure out how to say the word cabbage, so I'll just say cabbage.
Brilliant commentary. That is
Yeah,
state of the art.
quality,
And Jani's passed Montoya.
Okay.
Jani's just gone through, so that's 8th place. Montoya maybe driving like a bit of a cabbage on that moment. But,
that's the way to do it.
Well, there we go. Montoya's come back through.
Okay, 8th place then, Montoya and Jani. Oh, someone's in the gravel, it's Montoya. Sebastian Montoya in 10th place in the gravel trap. He and Jani having contact down at the hairpin right-hander at turn 7. And Jani now has got his way up into 8th place. He's got Charlie Eastwood now closing down on the back of him. But eventually, Neel Jani has managed to force his way past Sebastian Montoya. So that's the change there. Max Verstappen is still leading the race. He's on lap 5 of 8. Maximilian Günther is in 2nd place, 5 seconds further back. Colton Herta 3rd, Felix Rosenqvist 4th. I'm surprised Rosenqvist hasn't made more strides forward, actually, considering the pace he had in qualifying. And Jimmy Broadbent in 5th place. Let's go back to him once more, because he's in 5th, da Costa's in 6th, Juncadella's in 7th, and the 3 of them are all sort of closing in on one another, and Jimmy Broadbent doesn't bother with the apex at turn 1.
No, not too fussed about that one, was he? He's really wide, and that's just going to bunch up this pack with Felix da Costa just behind. Remember, they had contact earlier on at turn 4 when there was bedlam coming out of this corner here, and now Juncadella's just behind as well, so the 3 of them up for 5th place, and Juncadella's really close here.
So this is 5th, 6th and 7th. Now what these guys don't want to do is have a crash and wipe each other out, because then they won't be through to the final. It's the top 8 that go through to the final, and has Juncadella got through? Yes, he has. So Dani Juncadella, with a great move, has got through up into 6th position ahead of Antonio Felix da Costa, and that's given a little bit of a gap now to Jimmy Broadbent in 5th position. Oh, Juncadella, big slide! And he's managed to recover it, but just coming out of 7, da Costa is now back through into 6th place.
Yeah, he lost that one straight away again. So a bit eager on the throttle, it looked, coming out of the hairpin. And big slap of oversteer. Caught well, but he's lost a good couple of seconds. And all of that hard work that he did to get ahead of Antonio Felix da Costa was undone. Trying to be a bit too aggressive, trying to catch Jimmy Broadbent as well. Really nice fight, though, between these 3. And I imagine Juncadella is going to be back on the back of these 2 very shortly, because his pace overall seems to be pretty good.
Now, it's also worth mentioning there's a $10,000 prize pot up for grabs here this afternoon as well. So that's a little bit more incentive for these drivers. Verstappen leading, 5 seconds ahead of Max Günther. Herta 3rd, and Rosenqvist actually has closed in a little on Colton Herta. So that battle is brewing nicely. So let's look at Colton Herta for a moment in that 3rd position. And in fact, he's only a second or so back from Max Günther. So 2nd, 3rd and 4th are all starting to get a little bit closer together.
Yeah, visibly closer as well. You can see Günther just in front of Colton Herta here. Günther in 2nd place, Herta in 3rd, Rosenqvist in 4th, and a bit of a lock-up for Colton Herta down at the hairpin. All getting closer, and the only thing is there's only a couple of laps left at the end of this one, so they need to try and make their move quickly without making any mistakes, as you said, because the top 8 go through any incident right now to drop out would be a clanger because these guys are all safe right now.
Yeah, they're actually on the penultimate lap of the race. 6 laps completed. They're currently on lap 7, and the second, third, and fourth place drivers all fairly close together. But as you say, it's all about being inside the top 8, which Neel Jani is fairly comfortably now. He's managed to gap Charlie Eastwood quite well. Let's go back to the 5th place fight, because I think Jimmy Broadbent has got Antonio Felix da Costa right behind him as they come up to the chicane through the left and the right, and da Costa is going to be right behind Jimmy here, who's doing a remarkable job, actually, to be ahead of a 2-time Le Mans winner, Antonio Felix da Costa, a DTM racer, Dani Juncadella, but this is going to kick off, isn't it? Broadbent goes heavily defensive down towards turn 1. We're on the final lap of the race now, and Broadbent covers the inside. Da Costa thinks about a late lunge. Da Costa got a big penalty in the rFactor 24 hours at Le Mans last year for ignoring blue flags, but no blue flags this time around because he is racing for position with Jimmy Broadbent. Where is Verstappen on this final lap? He is just coming down to the hairpin, so we'll stay with Jimmy Broadbent for a little bit.
Yeah, Juncadella right behind Felix da Costa as well. So the three of them are close. Just half a lap to go, though, up to the hairpin. This is where Sebastian Montoya, his race came unstuck in that battle with Neel Jani all those laps ago. That was for 8th. Jani's now set for that last place through right now. But look at that, a little bit wide at the hairpin for Antonio Felix da Costa, and that might give Juncadella a chance, and it might just give Jimmy Broadbent a bit of breathing space in this 5th place.
But Max Verstappen, in the lead of the race, is coming up to the final chicane. He comes through the left, he comes through the right, and the big name draw has not let us down, has he? He's going to finish some 5 or 6 seconds clear of Max Günther. Verstappen out of the final corner and cross the line to win the first race in the Race All-Star Esport battle. A really impressive performance from Verstappen. Max Günther across the line in 2nd position. Colton Herta in 3rd. Rosenqvist in 4th. They got nice and close towards the end. And here's 5th place Jimmy Broadbent. He's going to hold on. Jimmy Broadbent across the line finishes in 5th position in a race of really impressive top-line motorsport drivers. Broadbent 5th. Da Costa and Juncadella have a little crash as they come across the line. They've had a few of those during the race so far. Juncadella 7th. Neel Jani in 8th place then. The Works Porsche driver is the last driver to qualify for the final. Charlie Eastwood, Simon Pagenaud, Juan Pablo Montoya, Sebastian Montoya and Devlin Defrancesco not making it through to the final. So, a commanding win for Verstappen, but a great... Well, it was close for 2nd, 3rd and 4th, but you just can't risk it, I suppose.
Yeah, and actually Rosenqvist's pace was pretty good, but he just made that huge mistake at the start from the lead of the Grand Prix, still in that Grand Prix mode. From the lead of the race, he dropped it right down. So actually finishing 4th for him was a pretty good effort. Really good race, that.
Yeah.
Some nice battles at the front, but Max Verstappen, you have to say, pretty unchallenged out front. Quite an ominous first result.
And that then is the first heat of 3. So that's the first 8 drivers that will progress through to the final. So that means Jimmy Broadbent will be in the final in, I don't know, hour and a half, let's say, something like that, once we've gone through the other 2 races. And attention will now switch to the second race. So, Rene Butler, your thoughts on that first race?
Once again, I'm just stunned by what actually happened. I'm kind of happy that Max Verstappen was able to set the tone here, but we overlooked Günther and Herta, I would say. Both did a great job just running right behind it. You said it already, not risking anything because they just need to get through, right? They need to hit the top 8. There was a good fight for 8, 7, and 6 with Broadbent, Jani, and Antonio Felix da Costa, and everyone showed they can be on pace. We had some good fights, not really that many contacts, which is awesome. So bringing these top 8 now together with all the other groups, we're up for some really, really good racing.
ReipDevlin says, do I have time to get a pizza before the next race? No, not really. I'd get one delivered, to be honest, if you're wanting a pizza. You got time to get one before the final, but not before the next race itself. Scott Mitchell, the race's Formula One reporter, has given his feedback on the race, but I'm not really interested in hearing what he has to say. He said, supreme from Max Verstappen. This level of sim racing is a good reflection of ability class, requires focus, speed and consistency. A good example of just how good Max is. Effortless. There we go. So we've even got the race giving opinion on here. Neel Jani on the in-game chat has said, sorry, Simon. So presumably Jani and Pagenaud had a bit of a moment earlier on. So keep going with the comments on YouTube and the like. And before too long, we'll be getting underway with qualifying for the second race. Now, the group for the second race is some of the top sim racers, the sort of famous sim racers, let's say. So if any of you have watched the F1 esports Pro Series, you'll know the likes of Brendon Leigh, a two-time champion in that series, Bono Huis, a multiple Formula Sim racing champion, and also a racer in the F1 esports Pro Series, Wolfgang Reip, who was one of the winners of the GT Academy from a couple of years ago, that project that Nissan ran, and he went on to race in the Blancpain GT series, did Wolfgang. Rudy van Buren, who won the world's fastest gamer McLaren competition. We've also got Ross Gunn in there, who won the British GT Championship GT4 class, along with Jamie Chadwick in an Aston Martin in 2015-ish, I want to say, something like that. Maybe
former BRDC Formula 4 race winner.
Yes,
Ross Gunn as well.
Indeed,
proven pedigree in single seaters.
Been around his house in a professional way.
Okay.
Eduardo Barrichello is out there as well. Ruben's his son, and we've also got Jari Tynan, who is a very impressive. Jarl Tynan. My apologies. Who's a very impressive racer as well. So it's a really good group in Group 2, and then Group 3 is going to be a group of racers who qualified yesterday from just going on the rFactor 2 server and setting the fastest lap time. And in that, we had some 14 drivers, I think, separated by 0.3 of a second. That's how close it was. So I think Group 3 doesn't have the most famous names if you're new to this sim racing world, but it certainly will be possibly the most competitive. If you're enjoying what you are watching here on the Races YouTube channel, then hit like and subscribe, because they got plenty of stuff from real Formula 1 over the course of the season, the Formula E Championship, MotoGP, and also sim racing. And we will also be covering the race will be covering the other esports events happening this afternoon. So the second qualifying session is going to be underway soon. Rene, who are you looking at in this second set? It's a really tough one to call, actually.
I mean, Bono Huis is always someone to look at if we're talking about rFactor 2. James Baldwin in general, he's a huge talent. The GT driver Yari, sorry for that, is another one that I would be willing to put my money on. But then there's still Rudy van Buren, who showed plenty of times that he can be damn quick in such cars and in rFactor 2. So there are at least 5 people that could win this, and the rest of the grid is close enough to actually make this a real fest.
I spoke to Bono a moment ago, actually, just before we came on air, and he said it's been a while since he's done rFactor, because his focus has changed as part of the McLaren Shadow team to the F1 Esports Pro Series on the Codemasters F1 2019 games. He hasn't actually driven rFactor in that long, and has been doing a bit of iRacing as well. The other randomer in this one is Paul O'Neill, who did a tweet, I think it was yesterday, saying something like, "Oh, I'd be interested in doing this," and the race replied saying, "Well, get along to a sim place at Silverstone and you can be in it." So Paul O'Neill, a British touring car race winner, now a commentator on the ITV coverage of the British touring cars, is all of a sudden going to be racing.
Good to see. Good to see. It's a nice looking lineup as well, this one. 13 more in it. Brendon Leigh, the F1 esports champion, but he's another man that's not used to rFactor as well, is he? So that'll be interesting to see how he does.
So the qualifying session has begun. It's the same as last time. So everybody has their private qualifying session, and then out they go onto the track. They do their one lap, and that's it. If you're interested, ambient temperature is 22 degrees. Track temperature is 22 degrees. Drivers saying that in the race, tyre wear is a bit of an issue. It's mainly the thermal degradation that's going to get you, rather than it sort of wearing out as such. It's going to be overheating that's the issue. As Cloney M points out, 2010 to 2014 Formula Sim racing champ Bono Huis. And that was when I was commentating on Bono Huis winning the first race I ever commentated on in 2008. Was on rFactor. Bono Huis won the FSR Ace race at Suzuka. First race I ever commentated on, Bono Huis won it.
So he's a veteran of 12 years.
He was 14 at the time, so no word of a lie.
Making Max Verstappen seem even younger then from the first heat. Bono Huis who will be heading out in this one, is heading out in this one as they're all on their outlaps.
Let's go with the first place man at the moment, Rudy van Buren. Then he is coming through the final corner, the winner of McLaren's World Fastest Gamer a couple of years ago, and does a bit of sim work with McLaren as well. He gets on the power now. He's in the purple car, the only car on track because it's a private session, and comes down towards turn 1. And for me, he's got to be... He's my favourite for this one, actually, Rudy van Buren. So here he comes into turn 1. Let's hope he doesn't let me down.
A bit of a correction on the way in and way out of turn 1. And then plenty of understeer in the car for turn 2. That means he's then fighting the rear on the exit because you've got so much steering lock on the way through. You then want to get on the power, but with all that steering lock on the rear tyres, don't take it all that well. But overall, it's looked pretty tidy. What's going to be interesting is seeing the lap time compared to Max Verstappen and Felix Rosenqvist, who did a 1 minute 29.2 and a 1 minute 29.3. That was the pace in the first heat, so that'll be another reference for this. But Van Buren looking quite tidy then through this middle sector so far.
A lot of you giving me stick for how I'm saying Bono Huis. Well, I've had this discussion with him a lot of times. I know it's meant to be pronounced Huis, something like that. I can't quite get it. And Huis in English means house. So we've gone for Bono Huis. And that's how I've always said it. And he's fine with me saying that. So stop atting me on the chat. We're on board with Rudy van Buren, who's also part of the Formula E Mahindra team, part of their sim driving. Here he comes now towards the final corner, round the right-hander, and let's see what sort of lap time Van Buren can do. So Huis does a 1 minute 29.4, Van Buren across the line, and it's 28.7, so that's the quickest time of the weekend. Paul O'Neill does a 1 minute 35.2, 6 seconds off the pace there for Paul, but he's been very much thrown into the deep end. Dani Haddad goes in 4th place on a 29.7. James Baldwin slots into 3rd spot. Wolfgang Rape goes up into 5th position. Brendon Leigh goes 3rd then, 0.8 of a second away from Rudy van Buren. Obviously, all these drivers are on private mode, so let's go with Jarl Tynan goes up into 2nd place, so that's a very impressive lap. Ross Gunn is just starting his flying lap, so he's in 12th place at the moment. We'll ride on board with Ross as he makes his way through the left-hander. He's been a keen sim racer for a long time, as Ross, but it's not looking particularly quick in the first couple of corners here, because some of these guys have had more practice than others, quite frankly. Like I say, I think Paul O'Neill turned up today to the rig at Silverstone, whereas Rudy van Buren will be in his house in the rig he's raced on for years.
Yeah, he has set a serious time with that 128.7 though, 3/10 clear of Jarl Tynan. But let's see what Ross Gunn can do. I mean, fair play for Paul O'Neill to give it a go, really, at this stage. And we've seen in the last race, qualifying is good to be at the front. You can stay out of a bit of trouble, as Max Verstappen did. But it's all about getting in the top 8 and making sure you're in the final. So for Paul O'Neill, who's a little bit off the pace in this qualifying, a bit more experience, bit of a tidy race, and you never know what can happen. Let's see what Ross Gunn can do. Up to the final chicane then. Look pretty reasonable, the lap so far. Braking super late, way too late. Oh dear, there we go. That's the end of Ross Gunn's lap then. Straight through the final chicane. He should go top because he saved about 5 seconds through there. But and fighting the car, and I think he knows he's lost that one. Brake about 30 metres too late there, Ross Gunn.
So Ross Gunn across the line, and I think that lap time might not even count. So Ross Gunn in the banana-coloured car comes across the line and doesn't set a lap time. So he'll have his work cut out in this one. And so Rudy van Buren then is going to be on pole position. The former winner of McLaren's World Fastest Gamer, part of the Formula E Mahindra team, also part of Team Redline with Max Verstappen. Team Redline, one of the biggest race teams in sim racing. And now we're a minute away from the start of the second race. It's pretty non-stop, isn't it, this sim racing stuff?
Frantic action. It's good. This is going to be a good race here. Van Buren looks like he's a man on a mission. That qualifying lap was huge, but the rest of them all just behind were really, really close. Jarl Tynan, Brendon Leigh, Bono Huis, James Baldwin and Dani Haddad, all fairly close, and all fairly close with the pace of Verstappen and Rosenqvist from the first heat as well.
So on pole position is the all-purple car of Rudy van Buren. Jarl Tynan is alongside him, and he is going to be in the purple car, but with the black flashes. That's sort of how to separate them. Bono Huis in 4th place is in the all-blue car. And just waiting to see what colour Brendon Leigh is when he pops into the race. He's leaving it fairly late. Everybody else is there with 10 seconds to go. There goes Brendon Leigh. So he's in the white car with the blue flashes. So Van Buren on pole. Tynan alongside him on the front row. No formation lap. So here come the lights. The revs rise, and away they go. Bit of wheel spin for Rudy Van Buren, but he manages to hold on to the lead as they come down into turn 1. Brendon Leigh looks to the outside in the white car, trying to sweep around the outside of Tynan, but he's not quite able to do so, and in fact goes in too deep and loses out to Bono Huis, who's into 3rd place. James Baldwin into 4th. Brendon Leigh into 5th, just ahead of Daniele Haddad. So Van Buren holding the lead ahead of Tynan. And then Huis in 3rd in the black and red car is James Baldwin in 4th position. Much more tidy start from these regular sim races.
Yeah, well, James Baldwin did give Brendon Leigh a whack from behind on the way down to turn 1. So that sent Brendon Leigh a little bit wider. And Baldwin got past into 4th place. That was a touring car move there from James Baldwin, but he's got away with it. And as you say, pretty much, well, a lot cleaner than the pro races, or the real races in Heat 1. And all fairly close still coming through the end of the middle sector. 4th place, James Baldwin now looking quite close behind Bono Huis.
A little bit of a twitch there for Baldwin, actually. So he drops back into the clutches of Brendon Leigh. So 4th place, James Baldwin, coming down the back straight, has managed to gap Brendon Leigh a little bit now. So they are fairly evenly spread at the opening lap of this one. Again, an 8-lap race with Rudy Van Buren in 1st place as he comes through the final corner and out onto the start-finish straight, but there is only, 8 tenths of a second between him and Jarl Tynan in 2nd place. Bono Huis in 3rd, James Baldwin in 4th, Brendon Leigh in 5th, then Haddad, Eduardo Barrichello's in 7th place, and Ed Jones is in 8th spot. So at the moment, those are the 8 that would progress. Then we've got Defrancesco, Pablo Lopez, Ross Gunn and Paulo Neel. I think Wolfgang Reipers, he's in the pits, Wolfgang Reip, so he has lost his front wing. Real shame for the former winner of the Nissan GT Academy competition. So Van Buren out in front. I think the closest battle at the moment is for 2nd place with Jarl Tynan up ahead of Bono Huis just about, and then it's all fairly close behind. And René, not to criticise the real-life racing drivers, although I'll always criticise Antonio Felix da Costa because he's a crazy man. But this is a much more sort of neat start, isn't it, here?
It definitely takes some time to get adjusted to a simulator, since you obviously miss the input from the real car around you, right? So sim racers are used to do all of this with less input, while racers missing that input. So yeah, it was kind of, something that we saw coming, right? That they will have a cleaner lap 1. But we also see how quick they actually pick up the pace and how much they get better over time.
Yeah, exactly. Rudy Van Buren leading the way. Jarl Tynan in 2nd place. Sorry for saying his name wrong. Bono Huis is in 3rd position. James Baldwin in 4th. Brendon Leigh in 5th. Apparently, there was a big crash on that first lap. We don't see exactly the pictures that you see, so apologies for missing that one. I presume it was Wolfgang Reip that was involved, because he's now retired with suspension damage. So apologies for that. Rudy Van Buren out in front, and Tynan is under big pressure now from Bono Huis in 3rd position. So the 2nd and 3rd place battle, I think, is pretty much the closest one on the track still. There's a little bit of a gap back to James Baldwin behind. So again, it's the top 8 that will go through to the final, that will join the likes of Max Verstappen and Felix Rosenqvist, Antonio Felix da Costa and Neel Jani in the final. And before the final, there'll be another qualifying session, because that's the other thing. All about being in the top 8. Where you are in the top 8 isn't that important.
Kudos.
Yeah.
A bit of kudos right now, and a bit of mind games as well. Van Buren right now looking very good. 1.6 seconds clear of Jarl Tynan. But, it doesn't really matter at this point. It's just about being in that top 8. And right now it's Ed Jones who's in 8th place with a nice 1.3 second gap back to Lachlan Defrancesco. So they're the 8 inside the cutoff. I think Eduardo Barrichello passed Ed Jones at some point, although the two of them still running very close together for 7th place. Further ahead, they're a little bit more spread out.
It's quite close in 4th position, actually. James Baldwin is just in front of Brendan Leigh. Those two are right together as they come out onto the start-finish straight again. Can Leigh make an overtake as they come into turn 1? They are now on lap 4 of 8, so approaching the halfway mark. Brendan Leigh just a little bit far back. An odd year really for Brendan Leigh after winning the first 2 F1 Esports Pro Series titles. He then was kind of nowhere, to be blunt about it, in the last season. So it's good to see him sort of back towards the front here in this rFactor 2 competition.
He's going to have a bit of pressure heading into this year, isn't he? After 2 back-to-back titles, being the man to beat, then a fairly anonymous year last year. But in this race, and good to see him, 5th place. The pace is looking pretty good, but he's just a bit stuck in behind Baldwin as they head down here towards the hairpin. Baldwin, who gave him a bit of a tap and went through at the first corner, Brendan Leigh did out-qualify him, but right now stuck in behind. And the top 3 just about edging away, but still fairly equal gaps. Just a second, 1.4 seconds now, Jaltian behind Rudy Van Buren.
Thanks to Lupus Aries, who is our replay man, seemingly on the YouTube chat, says that Wolfgang went across the wall, across the track into the wall, and then got slammed into by a following car, which sent him airborne and then a hard landing. So that's what you guys all saw, and we didn't. So here we go then. Rudy Van Buren, 1.4 seconds ahead of Jarl Tyen, but it's very, very close now for 4th place. James Baldwin has Brendan Leigh right behind him. Surely this is going to be it.
Yeah, this is the one, surely, for Brendan Leigh in the DRS zone. Opens it up, and Baldwin goes defensive. Difficult to go around the outside, but maybe a switchback here. But I don't think that's actually going to happen because Baldwin, well on the brakes, he really measured that to perfection. Not too early to allow Brendan a chance to go around the outside, but not giving him the chance of a switchback either. So good defence, but look how close Brendan Leigh still is. Yeah,
when will Brendan Leigh find the opportunity to get through? Rudy Van Buren still leading, 1.8 seconds ahead of Jarl Tyen. Bono Huis is in 3rd, only 0.6 back actually, so that 2nd place battle is fairly close, but not as close as this 4th place battle of James Baldwin in the black and red car up against the white and blue car of Brendan Leigh in behind, over 4th place. Once again, as we've said before though, you don't want to risk it. You don't want to risk an accident and then wipe yourself out of a chance to go through to the final. And this, a reminder, the 2nd heat of 3. So in the 1st heat, we've already seen Max Verstappen and Felix Rosenqvist and the like. These are our top gamers. And then we move on to some more sim races in the 3rd race. And the top 8 from each will go through to the final. A 12-lap race around this Nürburgring circuit here in the race All-Star Esport Battle. Something that was thrown together, feels not quite the right way of putting it, but it was only Thursday lunchtime this started, and Brendan Leigh dives to the inside coming into the final corner, not quite close enough to get through. I thought he was going to have a go there. Can he get past James Baldwin now as they come down into the right-hander of turn 1? Will Baldwin cover? He does. Leigh can't find the inside.
Baldwin seriously driving in his mirrors though. That move into the last corner is not really an overtaking chance. Here we go, Brendan Leigh on the outside now of turn 2. Again, very difficult to make a move. But on the way into 3's all over the back of him. But no chance to get through now. Is into 4th. And then it opens up a little bit. But again, turn 5 not really an overtaking place. It's the hairpin at turn 7 where he might have a chance. But again, Brendan Leigh in 5th place. He'd like to be further up. He'd like to pass Baldwin. But he can't afford to have a bit of an incident because he can't drop out of that top 8.
Ed Straw on the YouTube chat says, interesting to see this is more of a proper race than the first one, in inverted commas, showing the high quality of professional sim racers with few mistakes and some very close racing. It's also been very busy further back in the field because Ed Jones is now up into 6th place, Eduardo Barrichello 7th, and Daniele Haddad in 8th. So that has all changed around a little bit. In fact, Eduardo Barrichello in 7th place is under big pressure from Dani Haddad behind. So those two are fighting quite hard. Eduardo Barrichello, the son of Rubens Barrichello, the former Formula 1 racer, he's in the sort of not the sky blue car, which is the first of the 3, but then the sort of more deeper blue car with the white car of Dani Haddad in behind. You might remember Daniele Haddad from the F1 Esports Pro Series. Didn't do a huge amount of racing over the last couple of years, but he was sort of in the mix and in the pro draft, I think, earlier on this year as they come through the final corner. Rudy Van Buren, though, is on his penultimate lap. Let's see whether Barrichello can hold off Haddad as they come down into turn 1. He can at the moment. Ross Gunn in 10th place comes into the pits, so it looks as though he's in a little bit of trouble. So up at the front then, we've got, and Haddad, has he got through ahead of Barrichello? Yes, he has. So up into 7th place goes Dani Haddad. It's very close for second position. So let's go to second place with Jarl Tyen just in front of Bono Huis as they come down to the hairpin right-hander now. Rudy van Buren still 1.8 seconds out in front, but this battle for second is going to run and run through the final couple of laps. A lap and a half to go now in this second heat. The top 8 go through to the final later on this afternoon.
Yeah, a couple of big overtaking chances for Bono Huis. One is coming up in just a couple of corners' time, but he's just dropped back a slight amount coming out of the hairpin and allowed Jarl Tyen just to get away a little bit, because this would have been a chance on the brakes into the chicane. But no chance from this far back, unless you pull a Ross Gunn from qualifying and cut the corner. But one more lap after this. He's going to get DRS out of this next corner, the final corner, and then he'll have a chance. But again, for these guys, they can't afford to make a mistake. They've got a bit more of a buffer. They've got actually about 20 seconds back to Pablo Lopez, who's in 9th, and would love someone to just mess up to get into the final. And he's actually only 1 second behind Eduardo Barrichello, so that could be a bit of a battle on the last lap. But still, Jarl Tyen just staying ahead of Bono Huis. And that's another big overtaking chance into turn 1 done for him.
So let's go to 8th place and just have a quick check-in on Eduardo Barrichello. As you say, Jolien, he's in 8th position at the moment, the son of Rubens Barrichello, but he's got Pablo Lopez right behind him. And this is the battle to get through into the final. So let's see what Barrichello can do, whether he can hold on and stay slotted in there. Oh, big slide from Pablo Lopez. That should do it.
Yeah, Barrichello must have made a big mistake on the last lap, because remember, he was ahead of Daniele Haddad and then dropped out from nowhere. So he must have gone off somewhere in the first sector. That's dropped him down into the clutches of Pablo Lopez. But as you say, Lopez having a bit of a slide and dropping back just a fraction might have eased a bit of pressure on Barrichello.
Up in the lead, though, in first place. We haven't really seen him a huge amount during this race because he's been fairly comfortable. But Rudy van Buren in the all-purple car sliding as he comes out of the right-hander of turn 11 up towards the chicane. A really strong performance in a field of such impressive racers. Rudy van Buren, winner of the world's fastest gamer's first season, is going to come through the final corner and book his place comfortably in the final of the Race All-Star Esport Battle. Through comes Rudy van Buren, takes the win. A really strong performance, and he's going to finish almost 3 seconds ahead of Jarl Tyen in second place. Bono Huis only half a second behind. James Baldwin in 4th. 5th for Brendon Leigh. Ed Jones is going to just about finish in 6th place ahead of Dani Haddad. And then 7th for Haddad. 8th is going to be Barrichello, I think. Yes, Barrichello holds on across the line. So Rudy van Buren, Jarl Tyen, Bono Huis, James Baldwin, Brendon Leigh, Ed Jones, Dani Haddad, and Eduardo Barrichello are going to be through to the final. So that's our next 8 to join the likes of Verstappen and Jimmy Broadbent and Felix Rosenqvist and Antonio Felix da Costa in the final.
So Verstappen's found himself a challenger.
Yeah, he certainly has.
Rudy van Buren, really dominant race, but actually Jarl Tyen and Bono Huis keeping him on his toes throughout.
And you have to think, if those positions mattered, if it wasn't about just being in the top 8, they might have been going for it a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. There's always that balancing act, which there won't be, of course, for the final, where it's all or nothing at the end. So getting in the top 8, crucial. And I have to say, that was a bit more of a professional feel to that race. I think Ed Straw's absolutely right.
So that's Jolien Palmer alongside me, Jack Nichols, commentating here. We've also been joined by René Butler, who is just a legend, but also also an expert in the sim racing world. What did you make of that one, René?
I have to say, you really try to get that Dutch sounding into every single name right now, right? I like it, appreciate that. Even though I'm not Dutch, but yeah, we had the first.
You say your surname then.
Butler.
Butler.
It's German. You know,
Yeah,
I
I know.
right next to Nürburgring. I had 2 laps this morning before starting to work again.
What do you mean you had 2 laps this morning? In what?
On the real track. I live 6 kilometers away from the Nürburgring entrance.
Yeah, but I could live a mile from Silverstone. Doesn't mean I can just go and drive on the track in the morning.
But that's the good thing of being here.
But what? They just allow you to drive up? What? Did you do the Nordschleife?
No, today they actually have opened the VLN layout, so you can do GP plus Nordschleife in 1 lap, and I got a yearly ticket anyway, besides the racing we do here. So I do enjoy some laps after work or before work just to relax a bit. That's fine.
What, in your regular road car?
I mean, I've got another two and a half track tools besides a regular road car plus the 2 race cars. So there's a bit of variance and cars to choose from.
I don't know if a lap of the Nordschleife would be my way to relax a little bit before or after work.
It's
the
great.
most hectic
good weather
experience
here.
I've ever done.
Just come over here and we do one.
Oh dear. So as you guys know, as I mentioned previously, just so you know, we don't see what you're seeing. We're sort of following the race, and we're all kind of working together to try and see what you're seeing. So if we miss stuff, that's the reason why. We have got Ruby West says, Rene, you sound like the German Dani Ricciardo.
Could be worse, right?
Yeah, could be worse. What would be worse? Who wouldn't you want to sound like?
If I say Jack Nicholls, is that a problem then?
Yeah, I'll boot you off this commentary. That's what I'll do. All right, fair enough. Right, so we are getting ready for the 3rd race. And this one's going to be really intense, actually, I think, because these are the drivers who qualified yesterday. And they are just pure rFactor 2 races. I think all of these drivers yesterday were covered by some 0.4 of a second. It was really, really impressive. So we got to keep an eye out on a lot of these drivers. A lot of them racing in the Virtual Endurance Championship, which is the big thing in rFactor 2 at the moment. So really, really impressive drivers coming up in this next race. Rene, who are you looking out for in this next one?
It's basically a team racing in this, AAA esports. These guys have been dominating lately in the GT Pro Series and GT Challenge Series. Basically everywhere where there's rFactor 2, these guys have been good. So on this lineup, they actually have Erhan Yayovsky, who's definitely one to look at. Probably my favorite to win this, I would say, but they also bring Risto Capit, who's just coming off a win on the BMW Sim Cup, if I remember that correctly. So yeah, AAA esports, very good so far, and the same for Burst Esports. That would be Jani Simoncic. It's another big name in rFactor 2, and I could see him up the front battling with the AAA guys. And then there's obviously Sancho Simsport, Luca D'Amelio. I hope he made it, because I'm not quite sure if he actually made it onto the server, but they're always good for a surprise.
A few questions. What do the drivers see when they are racing? Are they locked in a cockpit view for this? How are they, seeing what's around them when they're on the track?
It's cockpit view only. Obviously, they still have the choice between normal mirrors or virtual mirrors or both. Virtual basically gives you 3 different mirrors on top of your screen, one for center, one for left, one for right. A bit like a classic car. Obviously, that's not the case if you're in a Formula car, but it helps in terms of overview. So they should be good. They are locked into cockpit, of course. So there's no chase cam using or anything. And for all of them, it's the same. There normally isn't any chase cam usage in rFactor 2, as you kind of miss the contact to the car. I know that there are a lot of people that race chase cam in different sims, different games, which can help in terms of overview in front of you, but I would expect everyone to lock cockpit anyway here.
I would have thought chase cam would be very difficult to do. I thought you want to just go on board.
I can't do chase
no,
cam.
nor can I.
It's not easy, but it gives you a better overview. It's a bit like the TV cam on Formula cars. You see more of the corner in front of you, but you kind of miss what's happening behind you, right?
Yeah, I remember it from F1 98. The chase cam on that was golden, but I've since dialed out.
Right, we haven't started our qualifying yet. We've got a couple of minutes to go before qualifying, so at the moment they're just in the practice server. Maximilian Günther on the YouTube channel has just asked, where are all the Maximilian Günther fans? So, he's after a bit of fan action there. Is Max Günther, who became the youngest Formula E race winner the other week in where was I?
Marrakesh.
Chile? Marrakesh? No, it was Chile, wasn't it? That he became the youngest winner. Yeah, it was.
We have
definitely
both
Chile.
been there, and we both forgot where.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
kind of bad.
But he's 20. I can tell you, he's 22 years of old.
Years of old, is he?
Yeah, years of age. Max Günther. Yeah, so he's asking for some shout outs from fans. But even in this practice session, right, that we've got going on at the moment for these sim races, the top 10 cars are covered by 0.4 of a second. This is going to be, I think, the most intense race to get into the top 8, because it's just incredibly tight. In fact, the whole field is covered by 1.4 seconds. And at the back there is Luca D'Amelio, who has only just sort of joined the server and isn't fully up to speed yet. So this is going to be incredibly tight. And as you said, Rene, Simoncic is at the top in this practice session, which is not a huge surprise.
Definitely not. He's one of the favourites, so I would just wait for Yayovsky to get another lap in. But he might be done already. Another one's Mark Gustner, obviously, has a lot of experience in real and virtual cars, currently in third. I think that's a very good effort, and will be interesting to see how he handles turn one, because we know how crucial it is.
Someone's commented saying, Jolien and Nick, I love you two are commentating for today's event. Thanks for your time and banter. Don't know who Nick is. So there we go. Someone loves you, Jolien, but doesn't love me. Who said that? Go Cubbies 2016. So there we go. If you're enjoying what you're watching here on the race, then don't forget to like and subscribe. And Rapid Scorpion sums this up well, actually. This is sim racing at its best. Get ready to watch some aliens, because that's what the quick drivers are known as in sim racing. They're aliens. It's just like how do they go that fast? And you must have raced against some aliens in your time, Rene. Or are you an alien?
I'm definitely not an alien. I tried my best. Back then it was still enough for the Pro Series, but let's be honest here, it hadn't been so many sim races around back then. But a race against Niels Naujoks, he's currently with G2, right? The team manager, Danny Engels, you might remember him. G2 Husky, who's now overall team manager at G2. I actually raced with Gustner, I think, back then as well. I mean, some of us are around for quite a while. I had my first pro contract in sim racing with 16, and I'm now 32. So yeah, time is running.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we have got a lot of people now just saying Nick Jackals. So yeah, maybe I'll change my name to Nick Jackals. Qualifying is underway. Once again, it's a private qualifying session. So everybody out on the circuit will be by themselves, and we'll see what they can all do, and then the times will come through, and that will decide the grid for the 8-lap race that will be coming up in a couple of moments' time. I guess the man to watch really is the man who was quickest in practice, Jani Simoncic, the Slovenian who races for the Burst esports team usually, and is here now in the raced all-star esport battle. And these are very much the all-stars from hardcore sim racing, because, and this isn't to criticize other motorsport games out there, but this is, Rene, the hardcore sim racing lot that we have here, as opposed to sort of the Codemasters gaming side on like F1 2019 and stuff.
Definitely. I mean, these guys dedicate so much time to sim racing in general. For some of them, it's their actual job. So we got full-time pro drivers in this as well, in terms of sim racing. And they spent a bit of time already in the Hot Lap qualifier in these cars, not on the same track though, because the qualifier was in Silverstone. While we're now heading to Nürburgring in these races. So they are familiar with the car, might not yet with the track yet. So we will see how that turns out later on in the race.
Well, let's watch Jani Simoncic, who is the man who was quickest in the practice session. He's coming down over the start-finish straight and into the first corner. Let's see how... and we also have the sort of benchmark time. What was it? A 28.7 from Rudy Van Buren?
28.7. We had a 29.2 from Verstappen in Heat 1. 28.7 Rudy Van Buren in Heat 2. And now Simoncic looking to try and get near that or better than that for pole position in this third heat. So deep on the brakes for turn one, but actually got it stopped really nicely. So these guys have had a bit of practice. They've knuckled down to a good time, but it's very different when you've got a one-lap shootout. That's the case generally in high-level motorsport, and it's the case here as well. One lap, you make a single mistake somewhere, you drop a few tenths, and when the field's as close as we're expecting this one to be, it can cost you quite a lot.
So this is a private qualifying session. Everybody gets one lap, and then we will be into the 8-lap race, which will be the final heat. So the last of the 3 heats will be coming up in, 3 minutes time, I would say. And then we will be moving on to the final, where we will have Max Verstappen, Felix Rosenqvist, Jimmy Broadbent, all those big names up against some of the top names that have already raced in the last heat, like Rudy Van Buren, up against these hardcore sim racers like Jani Simoncic, who were on board, who we're watching now, getting a little bit of opposite lock coming through the final corner, and now the lap times will start to tumble. So Simoncic out across the line. It's already a quick lap from Mo Patel, doing a 28.8. Simoncic does a 28.4 ahead of Mark Gassner, who's in second place. Kevin Siggy in third. Petr Berliak in fourth. Michi Hoyer is in fifth position. So Mobertal in sixth at the moment, but the lap times will continue to come tumbling in. Who should we have a watch for? Let's go to 19th place. We're on board with Milniak coming through the final couple of corners now, and we'll see what he can do as he tries to jump up the order. Jim Parisis has only gone 14th quickest, actually. That's not a great lap time from the Greek, as we go on board here and across the line with Milniak, who doesn't set a lap time, so maybe something went awry for him earlier on in the session. Across the line is about to come Wisniewski, and he remains in 17th place then. So Wisniewski maybe making a bit of a trouble, or maybe we're just waiting for the time to come through. We'll keep an eye on that one. I think it will come through in a moment, Wisniewski's lap time, but if not, and he's starting down in 17th, that's going to be quite a surprise there, isn't it, Rene? I would have expected something from Wisniewski. Can it be if you cut a corner or something, your lap time gets erased?
Yeah, definitely. If it's not a valid lap time, then obviously you don't get it on the board, so that could have happened here. And also, I have to say, I don't know how he does on open wheelers. I saw him lately a lot in GT cars, so maybe open wheelers is not really the class he likes the most.
He might be starting his flying lap now, actually. So he's shown as having completed 3 laps, but maybe he went out the pits and then came back in or something like that. So this is the lap now for Wisniewski as he comes through the left and then the right and starts the run down towards the kink at turn 12. The Polish driver. Him and Brzezinski, very much a sort of Polish duo, both race for the Williams esports team. He comes up into the chicane, but we've already moved on to the race. So I think Wisniewski's just left that too late or something there, because he's going to be down in 17th place. That is a big, big shock, isn't it, Rene?
He probably tried a second run there to get time done. If he said it might just got deleted, right? So he went out for a second run, didn't manage to get through, and yeah, all the way down the leaderboard. And we know how hard it is. On the other hand, if he's really playing it smart in turn 1, and everyone trying to be crazy and show off here, there might be a lot of positions to gain.
Okay, so we've got, it's going to be Jani Simoncic, who is going to be on pole position. Mark Gassner in second position. Kevin Siggy third. Then it's Petr Berliak in fourth place. Michi Hoyer is in fifth position. Mohamed Patel in sixth. Lucas Blakely, who is a Racing Point F1 esports driver, the Scottish driver, is going to start in seventh place. And then we've got Kuba Brzezinski, who will be starting in eighth. So as it stands, those are the top 8 that will go through if the race finishes as it starts. But that's pretty unlikely, Jolien.
Big grid, and the top 8 go through. I'd say it's pretty unlikely as well. I think further back, you've got to hope for a bit of chaos at the front.
So here come the lights. Simoncic on pole position. Gassner alongside him. The race gets underway. Pretty good start, actually, from Simoncic. Gassner didn't get away well. That allows Siggy up into third position as they pile down now into turn 1. Looking to the outside is Hoyer. There's a bit of a nudge between Siggy and Gassner, but everybody is safely through the first corner. Simoncic leading in the green car. The blue car behind is Kevin Siggy. Gassner, who started second, is down to third in the white car. There's a little bit of a tap in the middle there. And almost losing a couple of places was Hoyer, who got hit from behind from Berliak, who's dropped down a little bit. Big switch at the back, and someone's gone heavily into the wall and upside down. That's not an ideal moment for Van der Heide. So Van der Heide has had a big moment, as has Mashuli. So he has dropped right to the back. But up in front, as they come into turn 7 at the hairpin, it is Simoncic who is out in front and who has held the lead. Kevin Siggy in second place, Gassner in third, and it's going to be very, very intense, this one, considering how close the qualifying times were.
Yeah, so far so good for Simoncic. Getting that start must be the main thing when there's the potential for chaos with 20 of them starting so close. Just a couple at the back having a tangle at turn 4, but the rest of it was very, very clean there. So the races have got cleaner as we've gone on, and now Simoncic with the lead, but he's still got a lot of pressure from Kevin Siggy and Mark Gassner just behind. And to be honest, everyone's still behind. There's one big line. Lucas Blakely's had a good start, up to 4th place already, and he's quite close behind Gassner as well. Look, in the blue car in the back of our shop. looking quite close to trying to attack for third place.
So Simoncic across the line at the end of lap 1. Kevin Siggy in second place. Mark Gassner in third. Lucas Blakely in fourth. Hoyer, Berliak, Brzezinski and Yajovski are the Yajovski are the top 8 as it stands. Risto Caput actually in 9th position is a driver who you would think is going to be wanting to get into that top 8 and through to the final. He's a very quick racer as well, although all of these guys are, to be honest. It's so intense up at the front in this one.
Yeah, and they're all going to be wanting to get in the top 8 and into that final. But with so many cars in this grid, overtaking looking harder as well with the competitiveness and the evenness of all these drivers. They need to be getting a move on if they're further down. Caput in 9th is right behind Jajovski in 8th. But if you're further down than that, you need to be getting on with it about now.
Up through the left and the right at the Schumacher S's. Simoncic pulling away just a little bit from Kevin Siggy, only by 0.6 of a second. And then it's 0.4 back to Gassner, 0.4 back to Blakely, and then a huge 0.6 back to Michi Hoyer in 5th position. Berliak 6th, and still the same top 8 actually. No huge movements just yet as they come up into the chicane to complete lap 2. Kevin Siggy running in 2nd place in the blue car. The white car in 3rd is Mark Gassner. And then Lucas Blakely actually looking quite racy in 4th place as he comes through the final corner. In fact, Blakely in 4th is going to be close here, isn't he, as they come across the line?
Yeah, Blakely is the closest one. They're all pretty even, the top 4, but Blakely really, really close to the back of Gassner. But no DRS and a little bit too far back on this one. Down to turn 1. Gassner went wide, though, at turn 1. And now look at Blakely trying to have a look at the outside of 2. Very rarely seen a move there, but can give you a chance to have a dive at 3.
Not quite close enough yet this time, though, Lucas Blakely.
The other thing is, with the field so close, that mistake that Van Buren had about 20 seconds in the last race back to 9th, that's not going to be the case. There's so many cars and it's so tight, this one. Any mistake from even Simoncic or any of the leaders, and they're going to be going home after this heat.
So we're on lap 3 of 8. Well, going home. They probably are already home.
If they're not there already.
Lap 3 of 8 then. After this 8-lap race, we will be moving on to the grand final of the race's all-star esports battle, and that's where we'll have Max Verstappen in the race. We'll have Antonio Felix da Costa, who asked on the chat for me not to talk. Can I swear on this stream? I better not. But he asked me not to talk bleep about him, but I will. And so that is going to be coming up in, 10-15 minutes time. We'll be ready for the final, which we're all very much looking forward to. But at the moment, it's these top 8 that are trying to get through into the final. And at the moment, Simoncic actually has been closed in a little bit by Kevin Siggy. Once again, though, in 4th place, Lucas Blakely very close to the back of Gassner. And Blakely's fortunate here because he doesn't have that much pressure from behind from Michi Hoyer as it stands. Down towards the first corner. They've both got the DRS open. Is Blakely going to make the move? No. A little bit too far back as they come into turn 1.
Yeah, really close, though. He's strong in the final few corners, which gives him that chance to overtake down at turn 1 on Mark Gassner, that battle for 3rd place. But so far not doing it. And as you say, he's in a nice position where he doesn't need to make that move. He needs to be in the top 8. He's currently 4th. Making a dive on Gassner is only going to put his car at risk and drop back, because the rest of them, they're not right on the tail of Blakely, but they are close enough that if he makes a mistake, he can drop out of that top 8.
So we are on lap 4 of 8, approaching half race distance. Matthias Anderson Joander says, "Is that Glock?" Always. Well, I've never got to say. I would want to commentate on Timo Glock just so I can say, "Is that Glock?" for once in my life. There we go. We've got Simoncic out in front.
Would that be a real honour?
That would be a really.
Use those words.
I think it would be a real high point in my career if I was able to say that.
Don't you think you got to look to your own career for these moments that are going to be the future high points?
Yeah, okay. I need a 6th place in Singapore. That's
exactly what you need.
That's a career. That is a career high point. That sounded really sarcastic. I'd love a 6th place in Singapore on my CV. Yeah, the race have clarified that I shouldn't swear, but some swearing on the chat is allowed. Anyway, out they come down towards turn 1. It's so close for the lead. Simoncic is only just ahead of Kevin Siggy. Siggy is really close and has managed to gap Gassner from behind. Simoncic in the green car, Siggy in the blue car. And they are very close to one another at the moment.
With a nice 1.5 second gap back to Gassner in 3rd. So this battle for the lead, the closest we've had so far in the 3 heats And again, Siggy now with less pressure from behind, he can go and concentrate on passing Simoncic. And they were very, very close through turn 1 there. Almost into the back of him with Siggy at the apex. But they're so dialed in right now that they're getting the car pretty much exactly where they want it through the break point and then the apex to exit.
Thank you to all of you who are joining us today. We're currently the biggest live gaming channel in the world on Twitch or YouTube, bigger than any Fortnite, Call of Duty or League of Legends stream. So thank you so much for joining us. It's great to have you here when we have some really great racing to bring to you. And in 10 or 15 minutes time, we'll have the grand final, which will have Max Verstappen taking on these really top quality sim racers. The top 8 still the same, to be honest. Let's go to 8th place, actually, because we've got a nice little battle brewing. We've got in Yayovsky, who's in 8th position. He races for the AAA esports team, and he's up behind. Actually, he was just in front of Risto Capet, but Capet's dropped back a little bit. But this is one of the guys who, if you ask people, they'll say overall, this guy is probably one of the best there is in rFactor 2, the Macedonian, but he's down in 8th place at the moment. Drives for the AAA esports team, which is run by Olivier Panis, winner of the 1996 Monaco Grand Prix. But actually, Yayovsky, in the black and green car, has managed to gap Risto Capet. So as it stands, there's 1.2 seconds between the top 8 and the rest of the pack, which is a good position for him to be in.
Yeah, it's critical. And actually, that's about the biggest gap in the entire race, is from 8th to 9th, which is the critical cutoff. So Yayovsky right now just needs to keep his head down these final couple of laps and make no mistakes, and he'll be in the final where he can have another crack to try and get further up the front.
Simoncic out in front. Let's go back to the race leader, shall we? He's in first place, 7/10 of a second ahead of Mark Gassner. They've managed to get away, ahead of Kevin Siggy. They've managed to get about 2 seconds to Mark Gassner in behind. Then it's Lucas Blakely in 4th. We're on lap 6 of 8, so these drivers about to start the penultimate lap, the second to last lap of the race. But this is how close it is. The top 13 are covered by 10 seconds. The top 13. That's unbelievable. Unbelievably tight.
5.5, nearly 6 laps in. They're really, really even. And that's why small mistakes in qualifying, they drop you down the order in this heat. And it's so difficult to make it up. Whereas in the first heat, there was a bit more carnage, more opportunity. The same in the second, a little bit more. Here, very few mistakes in a big field means that getting in that top 8 is difficult, and qualifying was a lot more crucial. I suspect for the final, it's going to be more like this one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be really entertaining, the final, which will be a 12-lap race in a couple of minutes' time. Simoncic now is on to his final lap of the race, up ahead of Kevin Siggy. They come into the first sector. And, right. Usually I don't have a YouTube chat that I'm looking at, and it's just full of people saying I'm pronouncing things wrong, and apparently Crunch92 says I said, let's go back to the leader, he's in first place. Yeah, I did say that. Man,
and it's not factually incorrect either.
no.
The leader is leading the race, he's in first.
I thought you'd be getting more stick on this, but there we go.
No, but I'm an expert commentator.
Well,
You're
what am I? Finish
No, I'm not even going to. Let's go back to the leader. He's in first place. It's Jani Simoncic, and he's got 7/10 to Kevin Siggy. Looking nice up front.
Yeah, looking very, very strong here, Simoncic, who, as you say, 7/10 in the lead, and then it's still pretty close for third place, and it's getting, Peo Pev has moved up a place. He's got ahead of in 10th position. There's a nice little queue with Peo Pev up ahead of Luca D'Amelio and Yuri Toman, and they are all up in 10th, 11th and 12th. But again, you would have thought they would have closed in a little bit more, and Wisniewski is going to be so frustrated. He didn't get a lap in, and he's now down in 13th place. He would be one of the drivers you'd think would be booking themselves a place in the final. Very close for third position. Third place, Mark Gassner, just ahead of Lucas Blakely, and Blakely looks to the outside now as they come to the left-hander of turn 2.
Yeah, Gassner just lumped a bit of apex curve, which sent him wide on the exit. Blakely almost having a look down the inside of 3. It's a bold move, and one that you don't need to be doing at this stage when you're in 3rd and 4th positions. But Blakely's clearly a bit stuck behind Gassner. He's kind of been there all race. Qualified a bit further down, I think in 7th, but good first lap. And then he's just been stuck on the back of Mark Gassner all race long. But this is good enough right now for them. bit of a ding dong, and they'll be dropping down outside of that top 8 because it's still super tight, just 4 seconds behind. And you got Risto Capet, who at the moment is going to be going out, and really frustratingly, he'll want something like this to happen.
Felipe Santos says he's in first place. Is that Glock? So thank you very much. And also, IQ Konodul says, Palmer, I want your children. There we go. Final lap of the race. Any comment on that?
If I had some, I'd be worried.
Okay, so here comes Jani Simoncic, race leader, coming now through the final corner. It's been a really strong performance from Simoncic. He and Kevin Siggy have driven away from the field, and they booked themselves places in the final. Simoncic over the moon with that wiggling from left to right. Mark Gassner across the line in third. Lucas Blakely fourth. Michi Hoyer fifth. Petr Berliak in sixth position. Then we got Brzezinski and Yojovski are the final 8. They are the top 8 that make it through to the final, which is going to be incredibly competitive, and it's going to be coming up in just a couple of minutes' time. So Jani Simoncic, the winner, Kevin Siggy second. Those two, in a field that tight, when the top 11 are covered by 10 seconds, Simoncic and Siggy were 3 seconds up the road from anyone else.
Yep, is basically the competition's hotting up all the way through now, to the point where at the final, and Simoncic has just delivered a real class performance. But Kevin Siggy ran him all the way. You got Rudy van Buren, who looked really good in the second heat. Don't need to mention Max Verstappen, but I will, who dominated the first heat under no real pressure. This is going to be a cracker of a final.
Yeah, really, really looking forward to this one. Yeah, it's going to be 12 laps. And Rennie, I'm really excited about this. This is going to be such a fight in this final, and some big names not making it through from that last race, I would say.
It's kind of hard to not have big names not making it through with that grid, I would say.
Yeah,
because
true.
there's stars and legends basically everywhere. But yes, we now get the top of the real races that are really, really good in sim racing go up against the top in sim racing. And right now, I wouldn't really call who's the winner here. I think both parties, as in real drivers and sim racers, both of them could win.
Yeah, who will win, or do you want to wait until qualifying before you give your who'll be on pole? Let's do that. Who's going to be on pole? Yeah, we'll all pick one. Who's going to be on pole?
Rudy van Buren.
Really? Okay, I'm going Simoncic for pole. Jolyon Palmer.
I'm going to stick with the real racers, and I'm going to say it's Max Verstappen.
Yeah?
I reckon he's got it in his locker to raise his game. And yeah, I'm gonna go with him.
Did you have any wheel to wheel with Verstappen?
Oh yeah,
actually, your first race.
My Australian Grand Prix debut was wheel to wheel with him for a while. Then he passed me.
But you didn't know where he was.
I couldn't see him very well in my mirrors because the sun was going down. I had Carlos Sainz and Max Verstappen both behind me. They were in Toro Rossos at the time, and I think I was in 9th place, trying to get some points for my debut. Would have been nice, but yeah, every time I was trying to defend, I literally couldn't see where they were because the sun was going down, and I was just trying to guess where they might be, and in the end, they both came through, which is a shame.
So did you just cover the inside as a guess, or
no? I could see at some corners because the sun was only setting for half the track. The other half, I could see where I was going, and so I'd have to look where I didn't have the sun right in front of me and see sort of if I thought they'd be close enough into the braking zone, and then defend if I thought they would. And I might have been defending clean air. Who knew? But it turned out all right. Apart from one lap, they both came through. But the Toro Rosso was a bit more competitive, to be fair. Then.
Yeah. No, I'm sure. No sun-setting issues in rFactor. A B C D E F G says, Jack, read this for no reason at all, please. There you go. There's your shout out. The world's most terrible username and most terrible comment gets a shout out. So we are minutes away. Who did I choose for pole position?
Simoncic. Yeah. Okay. That was a predictable shout, I have to say, from you there. The guy that's done the fastest lap so far, you chose for pole position. He looked good.
That's a sensible way to do it, isn't it?
No, it's got to be actually, I was going to say it's got to be a man that doesn't crack under pressure. He did have to deal with quite a lot of pressure in that one as well. But yeah, let's just see.
Yeah,
the fastest in one heat. It's only one lap when you get to qualifying. That's the thing, and it doesn't mean that you can just get into the final where you got all the top runners from all the rest of the heats. there's a lot of pressure out there, and one mistake in qualifying drops you back. And we just saw in that heat, you fall back early on. It's quite difficult sometimes to make it up.
So we are about to get underway with qualifying in just a couple of minutes' time, and I'll read you all the names that we've got in the server for this final race. In total, there's going to be 22, isn't there? So we've got Rudy van Buren. Oh, it's just reloaded, so I can't reload it to you. But there we go.
Is it not 24?
Oh yeah, 24. Sorry, my apologies. But the server reloaded just as I was about to read you all the names. So we'll get that to you in a moment. But 12 laps, and don't forget also, there's $10,000, Rene, up for grabs here.
It definitely is. I mean, it's 4K for the winner, so it's not just bragging rights, and I would even say the bragging rights are bigger than the 4K that are actually on the line here. But yeah, also some money. Well, that's never bad, right?
Yeah, I think, Max is going to be broke if he doesn't get this win, isn't he?
I didn't check his bank account this morning. Normally I do, but not today. I'm really sorry.
Okay. That's good to know.
That might be a more worrying comment than the I want your kids one.
Yeah, exactly.
I think he'll be all right without the 4K, but it's the bragging rights, isn't it, for Max? And the 4K, everyone likes a 4K for winning a sim race.
Yeah, exactly. So we are just minutes away from qualifying getting underway. Everybody is joining the server now, and then we will be getting underway with qualifying. As I say in a moment, I'll give you the full list that we have through to this final. And thank you very much for joining us. As I say, it's been really, really cool to have you along on the race All-Star Esport Battle. And I think we're going to have more action from the race coming up over the next sort of couple of weeks while motorsport is obviously a little bit absent. I think we're going to be bringing you more stuff. So as a result, hit subscribe and like on this video. And then if ever we've got some more live esport action coming for you, you'll be able to see it. People asking me now about things I should do differently in my Formula E commentary. YGRLT says, stop emphasizing +1 lap in your Formula E commentary, please. Okay.
I mean, it's fine if you don't want to, Jack. If you don't want to anymore, I'll take it from you.
What, the job?
I'm around anyway. I'm sitting there right next to you, basically.
That's a good effort. That's a good... yeah.
This is getting awkward for me here, isn't it?
Yeah. That's a pretty classy move there, Rene. Try and take my job on air.
Okay, I would be okay with commenting with you. Is that fine? Is that better?
Yeah, that's fine. Actually, that's better than...
Did you say Dario Franchitti was listening earlier on?
He's actually...
Or has he stopped listening now?
No, I don't know if he's still listening. Dario, if you're listening, hello.
Drop us a comment.
But he said that he has already texted Darren Turner, who owns a sort of a simulator place up near Silverstone, to say, can I come up tomorrow and do some racing? So Dario's got the bug. There we go.
Maybe I will as well.
Yeah? Are you
drop Darren a line after this?
Yeah? Should we all go up there tomorrow?
Yeah. Commentators day out.
Yeah, that'd be great. Right, we are back in the server. Everybody else is joining the server now. And we're still in the practice session, so we haven't joined the qualifying session just yet. And as I say, it'll be 1 lap. Now, this 1 lap qualifying must be hard to do. Did you have to do sort of 1 lap qualifying at any point in your career, or was Formula 1 basically 1 lap qualifying?
Yeah, Formula 1 is basically 1 lap qualifying, because the track gets better all the time, and your last lap should always be the one. If it's not, then you've probably not done something right earlier on. And you can't go out and do more than 1 lap, because everything is just set for 1 lap. Your fuel's at the minimum, the tyres are only good for 1 lap, your energy and your battery's only good for 1 lap. So you can't do, in the junior categories, you can just go out and pound around a little bit more, and you sort of get at least 3 or 4 laps out of a fresh set of tyres. But in F1, you pretty much get 1. It's the same for a lot of top-line motorsport, because that peak performance is critical, and actually is similar with the drivers we've got here. Although on the 1 lap pressure is going to be huge, because there's a lot of drivers that are all fairly even now on a very high pace.
So we have got some really impressive drivers then who are, and I'll read you a list of them that are joining the server now. We've got Yard Tyan, who already was very impressive earlier on today. He is a very good sim racer. Felix Rosenqvist, Formula 3 Europe champion a few years ago, and now a race driver in the IndyCar series for Chip Ganassi Racing and a former Formula E race winner. James Baldwin, a very impressive sim racer. Eduardo Barrichello, son of Rubens Barrichello. Lucas Blakely, a former Racing Point esports racer. Mark Gassner, who finished second in that last race to Simoncic. Antonio Felix da Costa, who has won Macau twice. He won an awful lot of races in the Formula Renault 3.5 series. He's won 2, maybe 3 races in Formula E. That's something I should know off the top of my head. Bono Huis in 8th place, a 4-time Formula Sim Racing champion and winner of a huge amount of money at the Visa Vegas E-Race a few years ago. We've got Erhan Yayovsky, who only just about squeezed through to this final, but I expect him to be a little bit closer to the front in this one. Dani Haddad, a former F1 esports driver. Then we got Jani Simoncic, who won the last race very impressively. Ed Jones, the IndyCar racer, is in 12th position. He's not in a position at the moment. I'm just reading them off a screen, and it had 12 next to his name, and I fell into that trap because that's how I always read them. Kuba Brzezinski is going to be out there as well. Rudy van Buren, winner of the world's fastest gamer and a Formula E Mahindra simulator driver. Max Verstappen, who, if you haven't heard of him, he raced in Formula 3 a few years ago. He's now in Formula 1 and has won 8 Grand Prix. Yes, I thought it was 7, but that was Montoya that had won 7. Colton Herter, an IndyCar racer. Jimmy Broadbent, and I know you're all here for Jimmy. If you're all here for Jimmy, write Jimmer now on the YouTube chat. If you're here for Jimmy, write Jimmer on the YouTube chat, and let's see it light up. That'll be quite funny. But Jimmy Broadbent, a huge YouTube presence. Michi Hoyer, another strong sim racer. Max Günther, the youngest ever Formula E race winner and very strong in Formula 3 in the past. Kevin Siggy, who finished second in that last race. Brendon Leigh, a 2-time F1 esports champion. Peter Berliak, who has raced in F1 esports as well. And Dani Juncadella, who is a DTM racer and a former F3... I almost said champion.
He was champion, yeah.
F3 Euro Series. So there we go. We've spanned our own timeline. Everybody, right? Wow, there's a lot of you here for Jimmer, aren't there? Wow.
Popular man. He did a good job in that first heat as well. So let's see what he can do.
He
is a popular man.
Have I broken the YouTube chat? I'm really sorry if I've broken the YouTube chat.
Yeah, if anyone's got anything else to say, probably wait a few minutes at least.
Until the Jimmer has calmed down. So we're not too far from away from getting qualifying underway. The final is going to be 12 laps after the first 3 races were 8 laps. Yeah, we're still getting Jimmer. Oh, no, we're getting some Maxes thrown in as well now. I don't know if anyone's ever messed up their own YouTube chat quite so much as we just have. That wasn't ideal. I thought that would be funny at the time, but it's all gone to pieces now. Gabriel Marquez says Antonio Felix da Costa. Snake 10 says Jack. Thank you very much. And yeah. So and people are watching the Jimmer stream and our stream at the same time, which is quite impressive. So just a few minutes away, and Neel Jani, he's the last man that has joined the field, and Jani. Oh yeah, that last guy that's joined, Le Mans winner. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Huge pedigree, Neel Jani. Good experience and a good race as well. Who is it? I apologise. It's Simon Pagenaud.
Yes.
The IndyCar champion, Indy 500 winner.
Yeah. Who didn't make it
in. Yeah.
Yeah, the competition is incredible. Just to fill you in on something earlier, Dario Franchitti didn't text me, so I presume he isn't watching anymore. There we go. So,
anyone else not watching?
Sad moment.
Text me if you're not watching. So how's that? I'm a bit disappointed Dario's not watching anymore.
He's probably on the way down to organise some sim time for tomorrow, isn't he?
Yeah.
Or maybe he's having a go now, warming up.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I got into... I would always start watching the race, like the F1 race, and then sort of halfway through, go and start playing on my computer games.
You get the bug. You
Yeah.
want to have a go yourself. Were you good?
No. Have I raced against any of these people in this? I don't think I have. I commentated, as I've mentioned, on Bono Huis, and I raced a bit with a guy called Mo Patel, who I don't think made it through in the end. But yeah, I raced against him, I think, a little bit, but he finished a long way from him. I was not good.
Yeah, trying to work out who I've raced against in the field. I think obviously Max Verstappen,
Costa.
Felix Rosenqvist. I flipped Felix Rosenqvist at Snetterton
No, you didn't.
in an FPA race.
Like fully upside down.
Yeah, going for the lead. Hit the boost button, went for a lunge at Riches, didn't come off.
You
Turned him
flipped him
upside
at
down.
Riches.
Yeah.
That's a huge shunt.
Yeah, it wasn't great. So apologies, Felix.
Wow.
A turned in, to be fair.
Costa?
Costa I've raced against, I think only actually one race weekend. The Abu Dhabi GP2 final 2011. That was, I think that's my lot. But then there's Juncadella I never raced. Neel Jani was a bit before my time in the GP2.
Yeah.
And Günther was a little bit after my time. But there's a lot of good drivers. And again, the ones that didn't make it through, really predominantly from Heat 1.
Yeah. And Verstappen, of course, as we already mentioned. So we have got only a couple of minutes till qualifying starts. The 3 minutes to qualifying message went out a couple of minutes ago. I didn't quite see when, but we are about to get going. And again, the guys are doing some laps now, and Simoncic has done a 28.4, who's my call for pole. Rene's call for pole is Rudy van Buren, who's done a 28.5, half a tenth of a second between them. And Max Verstappen is only half a second back in sixth place, who's Jolien's call for pole position.
Yeah, so this Verstappen's up this pace already.
Yeah,
he's getting quicker. And again, they're a little bit longer race. There's more that can happen, more that can go wrong. All right.
Yeah, exactly. So we are about to get going. Lewis McGlade says, I flipped Jack Nicholls once. I wonder if... I'm just getting
have you been flipped?
I think I have been flipped before, yeah. But was it actually Lewis? No.
And tell me the story of you getting flipped.
I'm trying to think. I've been flipped a few times in sim racing. I definitely got one at Silverstone at Club. I definitely went over. I feel like China turn 5. I got flipped in GPWC. But anyway, right, we've got a big announcement, guys, that we can confirm next Sunday. We will have more big races. We have one exclusively for real racers and one exclusively for the sim racers. So that is the big news, that we will have more action for you next Sunday here on the Races YouTube channel and on Twitch. One race for the real racers and one race for the sim racers. So make sure you keep up to date with that in a week's time. But qualifying is now underway for the final, the big one. 28 drivers are going to go out and set their lap now. Who should we go? Well, let's go with... Verstappen's still in the garage, actually. So let's go with Simoncic. My call for pole. Verstappen's still in the garage. We'll then cut back to... Actually, where's Jimmy Broadbent as well, actually? Because we'll watch a bit of his lap. Is he out on the circuit yet? He is. Is he further around than Simoncic? Who should we watch here? Simoncic or this is up to you, Rene. Who should we watch? Simoncic or Jimmy Broadbent?
Oh, I have to say Simoncic for now.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, fine. So we're going to stay with Simoncic as he comes up through the left and right up at the top of the hill, and we'll see what Jani Simoncic can do. Quickest of anyone so far this weekend. So pressure's on.
What was it? A 28.4 he did.
Yeah.
That's the pace they've been knuckling down to in that practice that we had just briefly before. But again, now it's one lap, the pressure's on, and it's so competitive. Any mistake and they're tumbling down. And Simoncic, who looks so good, along with Kevin Siggy, Mark Gastinet, those guys from the third heat, they start further down. They've got a lot of work to do.
So here we go then with Simoncic out across the line. Let's see what sort of lap he can pull out of the bag. A 28.4 is what he's managed previously as he comes down into turn 1. Oh, just about got it in.
Bit late there, bit scrabbly at the apex, bit of oversteer, and didn't look all that neat. Looked a bit neater on the last lap that we saw him with in the Heat 3 qualifying, but that's just one corner. There's a lot of time to try and find through the next 15.
Down into the middle sector now as the track starts to drop downhill all the way down to the big looping right-hander of turn 7. Simoncic into that right-hand turn now. It's a private qualifying session, so everybody is out there doing their own thing, doing their own lap. Really working hard at the wheel.
The limit of the brakes there at the hairpin. Just had a bit of a lock-up on the front right. Then a bit of oversteer as he came off the brakes. Still fighting it through the flat-out 10-11 up the hill. Thought that might have seemed a bit early on the brakes there, but Simoncic will know it a lot better than me, I think, by this point. Here we go then. The long run up to the final chicane. He got right up on that apex of the left-hander, didn't he? Looked like he might have been able to carry a bit more, but looks fairly hooked up nonetheless. Oh, was that a bit deep for the first apex? Starting to look a little bit more untidy, but let's see what the time says.
It's all these tiny things that make such a huge difference. Out across the line, Simoncic did a 28.4 previously. Across the line this time, he does another 28.4. Good lap from Simoncic. Siggy does a 28.8, as has done Mark Gassner. Bono Huis. Tyan goes up to second place, but Simoncic still has a 0.3 of a second advantage. Where is Max Verstappen on circuit at the moment? He's in 15th on the leaderboard, but he hasn't set a lap time. Almost puts a wheel in the gravel as he comes out of turn 11, and now he's coming up to the chicane. Where can Verstappen put himself? Lucas Blakely's gone second place, less than a tenth slower than Simoncic, but here comes Verstappen towards the final corner.
So Simoncic's time was very, very quick. It looked a bit scrappy, but scrappy's obviously quick with how they've got the cars set up right now. Verstappen.
Oh, it's only 8th for Verstappen. 0.6 away from Simoncic. So that is not a huge achievement. Jimmy Broadbent ends up down in 20th place. Rudy van Buren is coming out of the final corner now. Across the line comes Van Buren. It's 3rd for Rudy van Buren. So the top 3 separated by a 10th of a second, but it's Jani Simoncic who will start on pole position for the race All-Star Esport Battle. Lucas Blakely 2nd, Rudy van Buren 3rd, Jarl Tyan in 4th, Kevin Siggy 5th, Gassner, Huis, Leigh, Verstappen and Brzezinski the top 10.
Verstappen went a good 2 or 3 tenths quicker than that in practice just a moment ago, but he dropped the pace. Simoncic matched his pace, and he had to take pole position because he's less than a tenth ahead of Lucas Blakely, who looks like he's getting stronger and stronger with every lap.
So behind that, the top 10, you've got Jojowski in 11th place, Felix Rosenqvist in 12th position, Michi Hoyer in 13th, Danny Haddad 14th, Carlton Herter in 15th, Ed Jones 16th. Then we've got some real drivers. Dani Juncadella in 18th position. I mean, those 2 drivers before were real drivers. I'm not throwing shade there on Herter and Ed Jones. Dani Juncadella in 19th. Max Günther in 20th position. Antonio Felix da Costa asked me not to criticise him on air. He qualified 21st, Antonio. I don't know what you expect. Jimmy Broadbent in 22nd place. Out-qualifying Eduardo Barrichello and Neel Jani, who was 3.5 seconds down, actually, Jani. But the top 13 covered by 1 second. Okay, the grid is lining up. I called Simoncic for pole, so I've won that one. Rene Butler, who are you going for to win the race?
I want to support the sim racing side because that's where I'm coming from, right? So Simoncic is on my list. I still wouldn't count out Rudy van Buren on 3rd. I can make it happen. And then I have to say Kevin Siggy on 5th. That could be another one from the McLaren Shadow squad that could go up front.
From 5th to the win, you reckon?
Yeah, why not? Give us some action.
Yeah, that's true. Jolyon Palmer, your call for the win.
I'm going to go Lucas Blakely from 2nd. He looked really racy in that 3rd heat. Verstappen now in 9th. I think he's given himself a bit too much work to do. If it was 5th or 6th, you'd say maybe a chance. Also, Rosenqvist did a good job in 12th. Considering he's not a sim racer full time, that's a pretty sensible job. He was quite close with Verstappen Heat 1, but he's managed to keep pretty close and now ahead of a few of the regular sim drivers.
Well, we'd love to hear your feedback on this event at We Are The Race on social media. If you have anything you think could be done differently or what you liked or didn't like. But now we are going to focus on the final in the race All-Star Esport Battle. On pole position, we've got Simoncic. Alongside him on the front row is Lucas Blakely. Rudy van Buren is 3rd as the race gets underway, and it's a reasonable getaway from Simoncic. Blakely's in 2nd place, the Scottish driver, covering the inside down into turn 1. Everybody goes firing in. Super late on the brakes, and that is some robust action into the first corner. And Kevin Siggy from 5th has got up into 2nd place. And there's a big switch from Lucas Blakely, though. They're still fighting further back. Tyan is trying to get around the outside. Rudy van Buren is in there as well. And eventually it is Kevin Siggy who's in second position. Rudy van Buren in third. Fourth for Blakely. Blakely trying to shut the door on Tyan, but Tyan gets up the inside. They have a bit of contact there as well. Gassner is in behind, but up in front it is Simoncic, who because of all that fighting has managed to pull away a little bit from the drivers behind.
Verstappen's gone. Verstappen's down in 16th and Rosenqvist is up to 8th, but somewhere Verstappen got caught up in the melee. Tell you what, Van Buren went crazy down at turn 1. He went so deep on the brakes trying to get second place, and he's actually done well to still be in third. Blakely was the big loser in the end. Went wide on the exit in turn 4. That dropped him back behind Van Buren, and then Jarl Tyan on the run down to turn 5 as well. So Blakely from second on the grid down to 5th.
Well, Rene, you said that Kevin Siggy was your shout. I said that was ridiculous starting in 5th position, but he's in second already.
Welcome to sim racing. That's how we go, right? I mean, it's slightly different to real racing because people are tend to put a bit more into it in turn 1. Unfortunately, there happened some contact. Not super happy about that, but hey. It's racing, we are here for a good time, and it's obviously not the pro championship, whatever. We want to see entertainment and action racing, so I'm still quite happy.
We've got some great action for 4th place. Jarl Tyan is trying to hold off Lucas Blakely. Blakely qualified in 2nd. Tyan is in the purple car, Blakely in the blue car in behind, and he's looking very, very racy. Really gets to the apex there nicely, and he was right behind Tyan as they came through that first corner. Simoncic leading, a second ahead of Kevin Siggy. Rudy van Buren only half a second behind him, but it's Tyan and Blakely who are the two closest drivers on the circuit. Just 0.2 of a second between them.
Yeah, Simoncic has got a nice gap of just over a second with just a bit of breathing space for now. That battle for 4th place really close though. Tyan ahead of Lucas Blakely, who dropped back at the start. Blakely spent the whole of that last heat trying to pass Mark Gassner, who's now just behind him, and he couldn't make it stick. So he needs to try a little bit harder to try and pass Jarl Tyan to get back into those front-running places.
There was a lot of action at the start, and Eduardo Barrichello is out of the race. I think Jimmy Broadbent got involved in the chaos as well. He's 20 seconds off everyone else, poor Jimmer. After doing so well in the first race, he's now down into 23rd position. Didn't see exactly what happened to him, unfortunately, but he's all the way down at the back. Now, Rudy van Buren in 3rd place, half a second behind Kevin Siggy as they come through the final corner. That looks like it's the closest of the battles up towards the front of the order as they come out onto the start-finish straight again. Down towards turn 1 to start lap 3 of 12. Brendon Leigh has fallen back in that fight as well, down to 17th place. It was so busy. Everybody was so committed onto the brakes into that first corner, and that's something you see quite a lot here at Nürburgring.
Yeah, it's a tricky first corner. It's a long run and then a tight hairpin, which is a recipe for a first corner crash, and that was the case. And Verstappen was probably the main loser, dropping out from inside the top 10 down to 16th. Now 15th, and side by side with Jajowski right now, trying to make his way back through. Max Verstappen, a really tight pack in the midfield. Yeah,
let's watch 15th place Max Verstappen for a little bit of a moment, because he's just coming down towards the right-hander of turn 7. You know what Verstappen's like when he's a bit annoyed and trying to carve through the order. He tends to do it quite quickly, and really impressive to have the 8-time Formula 1 Grand Prix winner here with us this afternoon on therace.com for this really action-packed all-star esports event. And it's just a shame we haven't got him up at the front as a sort of real racing driver. At the moment, it's Felix Rosenqvist in 9th place, who's leading the head of the real racing drivers. So that's Verstappen in 15th spot. Kevin Siggy in 2nd place, though, is closing in a little bit on Simoncic in front and has Rudy van Buren right behind. So I think the lead battle is not over yet, even though Simoncic just about has the advantage at the moment.
He did have more than a second, though, and now it's just down to 7/10. 8/10 as they cross the line. But look at Van Buren here, really close to Kevin Siggy, trying to pressurise him down to turn 1. A little bit too far back this time. But Van Buren pressuring Siggy. Siggy's not having to defend. In turn, finding a little bit more time to eat into that lead of Simoncic. And how good is Simoncic going to be under pressure? It's one thing winning a heat when you only need to be in the top 8. But now, the final of this race here, and that lead he had that was a nice little buffer, it is coming down.
Rene, in a 12-lap race, how important is tyre wear going to be? Is it sort of, is it all relative?
Guys are on the way on mediums, so it shouldn't be a huge problem. But on the other side, you can't just act like you can block, right? You can't just go sideways into every corner. trying to overdrive the tires. I don't think they will run into problems, but yeah, you never know, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Simoncic out in front then, up ahead of Kevin Siggy in second place. Rudy van Buren in third. Jarl Tyen is fourth. Lucas Blakely is fifth. Mark Gassner is sixth. Seventh is Kuba Brzezinski. Bono Huis in eighth. Felix Rosenqvist ninth. And Colton Herter completing the top 10. Maximilian Günther is in 11th place. A reminder, there's $4,000 up for grabs for the race winner, which at the moment is Jani Simoncic. But it's $10,000 the total prize pot as they come into... Oh, there's some action further back, side by side for fourth position. Lucas Blakely has got ahead of Jarl Tyen. So Lucas Blakely up into fourth place ahead of Tyen. But Tyen will try and fight back, but he's also got Mark Gassner in behind him as they come down towards turn one. I think Tyen's closing in. Blakely covers the inside. Big lock up. Oh, and into the back. Gassner into the back of Lucas Blakely. He's sent spinning off. And, sorry, no, well, it was Tyen. Tyen into the,
Gassner into the back of Tyen down to turn one. He's spinning round. And that all means that Lucas Blakely, now nicely in fourth place, can crack on and try and get to the back of Rudy van Buren and make it a 4-car train for the lead. There you go.
There you go. Thanks for that. I needed that. So Simoncic is out in front. Siggy is second. Rudy van Buren third. Blakely fourth. Brzezinski fifth. Huis sixth. Rosenqvist now up into seventh position. Gassner down to eighth then. So he has recovered and held on. Herter ninth. Günther 10th.
We might be getting a bit of a sorry message at the end from Gassner because I think that was all on him. Down at turn one, Tyen side by side with Blakely, and Gassner trying to pick up the pieces on the exit. Well, he tried to pick it up on the entry and ran clean into the back of Gassner. So that's knocked him from fourth place. Blakely passed him, and then Gassner now down to eighth.
So I think Max Verstappen's had another spin, according to some of you on the YouTube chat. So Verstappen back down to 18th after climbing up the order somewhat. He's now dropped back down. So Simoncic out in front as they come across the line to complete lap 5. So on to lap 6 of 12. Siggy is less than a second back, but he's just in front of Rudy van Buren. No matter what they do, though, these two, and it was the same for Simoncic in the first race. They just can't quite catch up with Simoncic, can they?
No, Simoncic has done a really good job just to extend the gap again. Still less than a second, still a lot of work to do, but it was down at 0.6, around half a second a few laps ago. So Simoncic just eking it back out to a more comfortable zone. And Siggy still with no comfort. Rudy van Buren right behind him. And let's see what Lucas Blakely can do. Now he's free, up in fourth place. Nice space behind him. Got no pressure there. He can try and find a bit of pace to get on terms with the top three. Remember, he qualified second, so he's technically on that lap at least was quicker than the two in front of him.
The real shame that Jimmy Broadbent is right at the back. He's still some 20 seconds off after getting involved in chaos down on the first lap. So a real shame for Jimmy, but no doubt. Well, I hope he's enjoyed his afternoon, and I hope you've enjoyed watching him out here. And remember that he's doing his own live stream at the moment as well. So I'll probably go back and watch that later, and see what his reaction was and what exactly happened to him down at the start. Now, Siggy's closing in here. He's got the gap down to 0.6 of a second to Jani Simoncic up in front, just chipping away. It was up as high as, I think, just over 1 second at some points. Van Buren is 0.6 off the back of Kevin Siggy as well. So across the line they come, and yeah, still 0.6 of a second. So Siggy's got a shot here as we move into the second half of the race.
Yep, pressure back on Simoncic, and that little buffer he had has just gone in one lap that was slightly less tidy, and Siggy finding a bit of pace, gapping Van Buren slightly. Now they're all equidistant. 0.6 Simoncic to Siggy, and 0.6 Siggy to Van Buren, and Blakely was a good chunk quicker than Simoncic as well on the last lap. He's now only 1 second, just less than a second, off Van Buren, so he's got a chance to try and get in this fight as well. We're only at half race distance.
Yeah, we certainly are. I think James Baldwin's had a bit of a coming together with Max Günther. Rene, you were watching that action.
Yeah, Günther and now I forgot the second name. There was so much action on the screen. I'm sorry for that.
Was it Baldwin?
Baldwin, yeah. Günther tapped Baldwin's rear going down to turn one, and now he's struggling really hard here. So side by side with Antonio Felix da Costa, everyone tries to push through, but someone is going off track there, and it should be Antonio Felix da Costa. It seems like Günther not really in the flow anymore after that crash in turn one, and now everyone wants to take his position immediately, trying to gain an advantage with him now being off pace.
Oh, and Yuyovski's through the gravel. It's all kicking off down here, isn't it? For 10th place. Brendon Leigh is trying to get past Yuyovski, and a big slide from Yuyovski, who then comes across almost collecting Brendon Leigh again. So action everywhere throughout this huge field, and really from 12th place backwards, it is all kicking off. Yuyovski under pressure, Brendon Leigh up the inside into the chicane, wriggles through, but then runs wide and has to cut the corner. He's now going to lose out, I think, potentially to Dani Haddad. Haddad goes to the outside. At the final corner, they both spin. Leigh and Haddad go round at the final corner, and then Brendon Leigh turns back onto the track and manages to wipe out Michi Hoyer as well. So a little bit of chaos further back in the field. It's quite calm up at the front, isn't it?
Carnage at the back. Absolute carnage. We pan back, and there's about 6 of them, even 8 of them fighting for that 11th place that Max Günther was holding, still is holding. But Bedlam at the front. Simoncic was under a bit more pressure, but he's just managed to find that 3/10 gap again to go pretty much a second clear. So whilst all that was unfolding in the middle, the front has been pretty much status quo still.
So Jani Simoncic out in front, 9/10 of a second ahead of Kevin Siggy in second place. Rudy van Buren is in third spot, and he too is only 6/10 in front of Blakely. So Blakely actually has joined this fight, hasn't he? In fourth place, Lucas Blakely, who's doing a very, very impressive job, because he was quite a way back off the leaders and has closed in on them quite impressively. Lucas Blakely,
yeah, he's found about a second to race leader.
Did a 30.6 a couple of laps ago, and Simoncic is running sort of early 31s. So this is impressive pace from Lucas Blakely in fourth place. Catching is one thing, passing is another.
Yeah, lovely cliche.
Thank you.
Kind of true though.
Well, whose cliche is that? I think it was a Murray Walker one actually.
Yeah,
there we go.
Sounds about right. But it is also about right. Catching is one thing. Overtaking is that much harder when you actually need to find your way past a driver that's, even if he's not quite the same pace as you, is pretty close. Therefore, is braking at a similar point to you, is using similar lines, and there's no obvious way through. But Blakely's managed to pass. Who was it? It was Jarl Tyen earlier on who he managed to pass. He's got to try and pass. Well, he's got 3 cars in front to win the race. But at least Van Buren and Siggy, the cars right in front of him, and Blakely certainly is quicker right now.
Apparently, Jimmy Broadbent got a drive-through penalty, so that is why he has lost so much time. And we are on lap 9 of 12. Also a shout-out, and in fact, let's just have a look at 7th place, Felix Rosenqvist in the green car here. He's sort of all by himself. He's not really in the fight with Bono, Huis and Brzezinski in front. But as a real-life racing driver, he is absolutely keeping the pace. 8 laps down, and he's only 6 seconds off these top sim races.
Yeah, he's matching the pace of Simoncic pretty much right now. Rosenqvist, really, really impressive. Simoncic in clear air out front. Rosenqvist a second behind Bono, Huis. But they're all driving right now to a similar pace. And Rosenqvist, as a real driver, is the top real driver. Colton Herter in 9th is 5 seconds adrift of him.
Everybody on the YouTube chat asking Rene to clear the penalty for Jimmy Broadbent. Did you see what the penalty was for, Rene?
No, unfortunately I didn't, and I didn't got a report yet from them. I mean, I could, but I'm not really into cheating, even though I absolutely would love to help my teammate from real racing, but no, not going to happen. I'm really sorry, guys.
Okay, some people are saying DQ Jimmy, so I think that's harsher. So
we go for the middle, not doing anything.
Yeah, exactly. You'd make a good FIA steward, not really doing anything. Anyway, that's all. I'm gonna get in trouble for that one, aren't I? I regret saying that. Kevin Siggy in second place. We're on lap 10 of 12. Siggy under big pressure still from Rudy van Buren. Only 4/10 of a second between them. Lucas Blakely has caught the back of the pack, but can't quite make a move just yet. And we'll see whether Van Buren can make the overtake. He's super close to the back of Kevin Siggy. This is the closest fight, and at this point you do want to gain places because there's more prize money up for grabs the higher up the order you finish. So we'll see whether Rudy van Buren in the purple car can get through ahead of Kevin Siggy or not as we come through to start a lap 11 of 12. So this is going to be the penultimate lap of the race that Jani Simoncic is starting.
And he's looking really good, isn't he? 2.5 up on Siggy. The battle is for second place now, that's clear. Siggy, Van Buren and Blakely all very, very close. Van Buren just 4/10 away. He's going to have a chance down here at turn 1. but he's just a little too far back. Right on the limit, though. Any mistake now from Siggy, and Van Buren's going to be through.
They come into the left-handers of turns 2 and 3. Big pressure here on Kevin Siggy with Rudy Van Buren right behind. Lucas Blakely in 4th. Kuba Brzezinski's had a quiet race, but still there in 5th position. Ahead of Bono Huis in 6th. Felix Rosenqvist 7th. 8th for Mark Gassner. 9th is Colton Herter, and 10th is Jarl Tyen. Max Verstappen's actually got back up into 11th place, I think, according to the timings here. So Verstappen has really climbed up the order well. We'll have a look at him in a little bit. I think he's too far back from Tyen to make a move. But Siggy just in front of Van Buren still.
Yeah, shame that Verstappen got caught up in that turn 1 incident, because looking at how Rosenqvist is going, Rosenqvist is doing a really solid job in 7th. Verstappen has been a little bit quicker, and of course started higher up than Rosenqvist as well, so he might have been able to actually be relatively in the mix with these guys. But he's had it all to do, and has had a second spin as well, didn't he? Or a second moment at least. Put him down even further, now up to 11th. But this is a tight battle now for second place. I say now, still, it's a tight battle. Simoncic is getting away even more now. 2 seconds, that's going to be the race done unless he makes a big mistake. But Siggy v Van Buren is still super close, and Siggy must be feeling so much heat from Van Buren. Last lap.
Yeah, final lap. Last time down into turn 1. And Van Buren is not close enough to make the move this time as they come through the right-hander. Jani Simoncic is now 2.1 seconds up the road. This is a really impressive drive from Jani Simoncic in one of the strongest fields we've ever seen, to be honest, in sim racing. Simoncic has got a 2.1 second advantage as he disappears out of sight down through the first couple of corners. Siggy in 2nd, Van Buren in 3rd. Lucas Blakely's done a great job. He'll be so frustrated with just going wide at turn 1.
Yeah, lap 1 was just bad for Blakely. When it was turn 4 that he really dropped the ball and just ran a bit wide. That cost him a couple of places. His pace has been really strong. He's dropped away now on this final lap. But he could have been the man to take the fight to Simoncic. Should have been, considering he started 2nd. But bad first lap. And it's been Kevin Siggy who came through to 2nd place, where he still is with a few corners to go. But he's had no answer to Simoncic up front.
Max Verstappen is up to 11th place. The race will be back on Monday with the rFactor 2 GT Pro Series powered by the race, which will have Max Verstappen in it. But he's only going to finish 11th in this one. In 1st place, Jani Simoncic. He's going to be the man that comes through the final corner to win the race All-Star Esport battle. What a drive from Simoncic. The Slovenian takes victory at the Nürburgring in one of the strongest esport competitions, the strongest sim racing fields of all time. Jani Simoncic with the victory. 2 seconds ahead of Kevin Siggy. Rudy Van Buren in 3rd place across the line. Lucas Blakely, he'll still be happy, I think, with a 4th place finish, despite the frustration. And then 5th place for Kuba Brzezinski. Bono Huis in 6th. Felix Rosenqvist, superb performance from him to cross the line in 7th place. Mark Gassner 8th, Jarl Tyen 9th. And Verstappen got up to 10th. Max Verstappen up to 10th on the final lap. Not what he would have wanted, but a great drive, considering I think he was down to 21st at one point, wasn't he?
Yeah, he fell a long way back early on, and he managed to come back through a little bit. So I don't think Max Verstappen's ever been happy with a 10th place, though, is he?
No, that's very true. But Jani Simoncic it is who takes the victory. Rene, just put that into perspective for us. Like, to take pole position in 2 races and 2 wins in this field is something unbelievable.
As that bragging rights are definitely on the table for that one, and they are worth a lot for him here, especially since he hadn't pole, right? It was, he had pole on this one, but it was Rudy Van Buren going through in turn 1, wasn't it? Now I'm really confused.
No,
it is correct, right?
Yeah, Simoncic took both from pole, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
He ran away with it, even though turn 1 didn't look great.
Yeah.
But he managed, and that I just think it shows how strong he is in terms of mental performance. Because I'm sure you can't be not nervous in a grid like this. Racing for money, racing for the bragging rights, racing in front of the biggest crowd ever in sim racing. I'm pretty sure that's where we're at right now. Showing such a performance, putting his name on the list, ensuring that Burst Esports is on top of this, really showing, hey, I'm out there, I'm probably the quickest driver right now here, and that's just incredible performance by Simoncic.
Jimmy Broadbent, everyone's saying, didn't finish last, and you're right. Neel, Jani ran out of fuel, and something happened to Max Günther. I think he ended up crashing out, and Eduardo Barrichello didn't finish after the first lap. So Jimmy Broadbent in 21st place. Where is that one of the strongest sort of sim racing fields we've ever seen, Rene?
I would say so. I think it will be hard to challenge this.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jene Simoncic taking the victory, Kevin Siggy second, Rudy Van Buren third. Jolien, you've done F1 esports in the past. What did you make of your first, this is some hardcore sim racing here?
Yeah, it was really good stuff. I mean, the blend of drivers is great to see how the real drivers got on against the sim racing regulars, and the standard again in esports. F1 esports is such a high standard, and it's the same here. I mean, Simoncic, Siggy, Van Buren, Blakely, all kind of driving to perfection. You struggle to find a mistake in their 12 laps, plus their 2 one-lap qualifying shootouts. It's such a high level. And again, for the regulars, for the what do we call them? Real racers.
Yeah.
Felix Rosenqvist and Max Verstappen, Costa, Juncadella, all these guys. It's so hard to come in when it's not your day job, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us here for the Race All-Star Esport Battle. There's more action on Monday already with the rFactor 2 GT Pro Series powered by the race, which Max Verstappen will be a part of. And, of course, there's another big race weekend coming next Sunday. We're going to have one race for professional racers and one race for sim racers. So if you're a professional racer, actually, who has watched this and thought, you know what? I'm into this. Are you going to do it? Do I count? Are you going to do it?
I'm not a professional. I'm a professional commentator these days, Jack.
Come on, are you going to do it?
I wouldn't want to show up Simoncic, to be honest. I saw a couple of chinks in his armour, and it would be unfair to try and exploit them.
We just add a 4th group with commentators on it for the next one, and then
that's true.
we all have a go.
Yeah, I'm going to destroy Crofty. Right. Thank you very much for joining us, everybody. Rene, a huge thanks to you. Thanks to Ruben, who's been doing the cameras. Thanks to Jolie and Palmer. Thanks to Edmund, whose bedroom I'm in. And from me, Jack Nichols, it's been a huge pleasure to cover this event for you all. And we'll be back for you on the race before too long with some more esports. Any comments, get in touch at We Are The Race at social media. Like and subscribe here on YouTube. And we'll see you soon.